A warm welcome to the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Finals. I am your host and I'm very delighted to be here. My name is David Christie, and somehow, by the grace of God, we've got him up from his bed at 6:30 in the morning. It is a very warm welcome to the legend himself, Marv from YouTube. Welcome along, buddy. Thank you so much that we finally got an expert in here, because you're going to be able to keep me right here for the next couple of hours.
Man, well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited. It is literally the crack of dawn for me, but I couldn't miss it for the world. I'm super excited to jump right into all this awesome Lamborghini action, and it's going to be fast-paced, it's going to be hyped, and I'm really looking forward to it, man. I'm glad that we're all here.
Anybody else would need a lifetime supply of coffee and energy drink, but we're not going to need any of that today, Marv, because we've got 3 platforms to get through today: iOS, Android, and Windows/Xbox as well. It's going to be a bracket format, which means we've got 5 matches for each platform going up. We'll be going through all of them in due course, but really there is a lot to go for here, and obviously everyone qualifying via that time trial format last month, 2 separate qualifying stages, and a lot to play for today. So let's have a quick... Sorry, Marv, on you go. I was just waiting to say about this bracket format here. The upper bracket here for the iOS, Fire, Future Flash, Phantom Blaze, and Elite Joe. Looking at them, who should we be looking at?
So we got a couple of returning names here, some veterans of Asphalt 9 Esports. Future Flash is the person I'm looking for as the favorite. Elite Joe, an interesting storyline, switching from Android to iOS, which was an interesting change I don't think anyone really saw coming. He was dominating the Android brackets, but now he's over on iOS, so definitely Future Flash and Elite Joe I'm looking as the favorites for this tournament. Phantom Blaze, a really nice name as well. And yeah, this is going to be super exciting. Veterans and some newcomers. And we're also going to be participating on Rome, which of course is the home the home country for this awesome Lamborghini Revuelto. So these players are going to feel right at home with this track and car combo. This is going to be really excited. I'm really looking forward to it. I think these players are going to have a nice mix of friendly competition and also some new faces that they're going to have to compete with.
Yep, so 2 upper bracket matches to kick us off. We're almost ready to go trackside virtually here at Rome, capital of the world. Side by side at Fire and Future Flash, and Fire off to that start on that left-hand side of the map here. Future Flash taking that early lead there down by the waterfront here. So important to build up that nitro, and nitro management through the course of the afternoon is going to be absolutely crucial here, Mark.
Yeah, nitro management is really important, especially with the Revuelto. It has amazing acceleration. You want to take advantage of Shockwave, and something we didn't see was a forced barrel roll at the beginning of that race. Players are going to have to contend with whether or not they want to take the safe route or go with something more familiar, more risky as well. But Future Flash is maintaining this lead here, coming out onto the straightaway with the brake nitro trick, trying to maintain that top speed, and that's going to be very important because while the Revuelto has amazing acceleration and handling, the top speed is really easy to reach. So because when you're in nitro you have about a 10 mile per hour boost in top speed, the longer that you can maintain your nitro speed, the more the faster you're going to be compared to your opponent. So nitro management, as you mentioned, is going to be very important, and Future Flash is maintaining an ever so slight lead here as we round the corner into our second lap in just a couple of seconds here, but it is certainly not over for Fire. This second lap is going to be super close. He was almost about to overtake on the left-hand side there, going into Shockwave onto the straightaway. Again, are we going to see a forced barrel roll? No, they're both going to go for the normal jump. Actually taking a different route here. Future Flash taking an inside line. He's going to avoid that air time, which is interesting because that gives you a 30% boost in speed. It's almost so close. He's about to overtake on the right-hand side, but no, Future Flash defends his line.
Yeah, this is so close in this. Oh, they're right on a huge mistake there for Fire. Drops back at least, a second and a half there. That is going to be absolutely crucial coming towards the end of this map here. 75% of the race done already, and Future Flash doing a grand job of holding out there. And it just shows, Mark, it's those little mistakes, it's those little notches in that really hinder the drivers.
Yeah, Fire had an opportunity to overtake there. I'm not sure what happened if he just hit the brake for a bit there, but he's going on the inside here. It's a bit faster, but tricky to master, and I don't think he's about to pull it off. As you saw there, as soon as he went to Shockwave, the car's handling just didn't keep up with his inputs. So it looks like Future Flash is going to take this first map on Rome, starting off this awesome series final.
Wow, it's over just as quickly as it begun there. Just over a second difference. It looked a lot more on the actual screen there, Marv, but that was a wild start to the race here. And again, it was so close for the majority of that race, but again, just that one opportunity that was missed there, and that's it all gone.
Yeah, he had a lot of opportunities to overtake Future Flash there, but he didn't take advantage, I think, of the acceleration and those tight corners. It felt like Future Flash was doing a really good job of defending his line. So, honestly, not an unexpected victory from Future Flash. We know he's the king of these sort of tournaments, so I'm sure he's really comfortable, not breaking a sweat at all.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there watching in that first match then. So next match up then, obviously with this this best of 5 and the double elimination format here, it's relentless matches. It's, the driver's not going to be able to take too much of a break here. And of course, since we're on the iOS platform, all of these drivers taking part using their mobile phones here. I wonder how much is strategy going to play into the hands of these matches this afternoon here, Marv?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of talk about different strategies that these players might use, because every time we see a new tournament come around, some player usually pulls off some new fancy trick that we've never seen before. So I'm curious to see if there are going to be any players that have something up their sleeve that we don't know about. The community is always discovering new ways to get airspeed tricks, new nitro management tools, all that sort of stuff. And these pro players can, they can sometimes hide one of those fun little strats behind their back and pull it out using or during the finals rather. So I'm curious to see if any of these players are going to pull off something that we've never seen before, because that's always a possibility. But something that you mentioned was the bracketing, and sometimes in Asphalt 9 we don't have a lower bracket at all. The introduction of the lower bracket has been a rather interesting thing, I guess you would say, for Asphalt, because players aren't used to lower brackets at all. Getting that second chance is a new thing for a lot of these players. So I think maybe that'll give some players some, more confidence coming into the game. Maybe they don't have to, come out of the gate swinging. They can sort of get used to their competition, get used to a live 1-versus-1 environment, because some of these players have only played through those qualifiers, those time trials where you're just playing by yourself. So this 1v1 environment is going to be very different for some of these players. So having that lower bracket, I think, will put them at ease a bit, maybe reduce the anxiety.
Yeah, I think going into the lower bracket at this first match stage is going to be massively detrimental, because it makes it very difficult. We're back with race number 2 though. It's Yafire on the left-hand side and Future Flash on the right-hand side. In fact, swap that about there, because we've actually got Yafire on the right there. You can see Future Flash just up in front, and again Future Flash taking to that early lead there, and Yafire having to play catch-up early on. I wonder, and then it really seems to be part of his strategy, Future Flash just grabbing this race early on and pushing things through.
Yeah, I think Future Flash does a really good job of getting ahead early. He knows how to take the lines and start defending, like we've mentioned. Oh, yeah, fire hitting the edge of that building there. That's going to cause a massive upset. And Future Flash laughing at the competition. I don't know if that was some BM or some friendly chat there, but Future Flash is now barreling towards this victory. I don't see a world where Yellfire can really catch up unless Future Flash makes some sort of big mistake, but we know Flash is not really prone to making any sort of big mistake like that. That is a huge misstep from Yellfire. That jump can be sometimes tricky, especially in cars where you don't have control, but the Revuelto has amazing handling, so I'm not sure exactly if he just miscalculated how high that building was. I mean, hey, there's not really other games you could say that the player clipped the top of a building in a flying Lamborghini, but unfortunately Future Flash here is just barreling towards this victory, as I already mentioned, in Fire. Oh, it's going to be tough to see if he can keep up, but I don't think this is going to happen.
Yeah, I can't see any possible way of Yafire getting back into this one. The thing is, as well, is that Yafire, that is going to be playing on his mind now. The fact that he's made that mistake on both races, that's cost him essentially any chance of participating in this particular race. I mean, it is Future Flash that he is racing against, and he is starting to make a tiny little bit of a comeback here, but again, just perilously close to the top edge of that building here. The hit detection almost catching him out yet again. again here. And yeah, this has surely got to be Future Flashes for the taking. Best of 3 for these opening rounds in the opening bracket here, and of course that is going to mean that Future Flash moves on to the next match here. I get the feeling that he might be in cruise control at this point.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as the players see they, have another player who's made a mistake, they want to play as safe as possible. And there we go. Future Flash crossing the finish line, confirming this first best of 3 opening match. Not an uncommon sight to see him in the upper bracket, so I'm sure he's feeling good about himself. Yafire may be feeling a bit flustered after that mistake, but I'm sure he can brush it off. And as he goes into that lower bracket, make sure that he corrects for that. Not a huge deal. It's not anything that I would say was like a big mistake or something like that. Just maybe, like I said, a miscalculation of how high that building was. But overall, Future Flash doing a great job of showing why he's the king of iOS.
Yeah, and obviously with what we're understanding about this bracketing system now, he moves to the lower bracket where he's still got a chance at being in with the final, but he would have to play another 2 sets of matches to progress through here, because he'll play the other loser from the upper bracket here, and then potentially the loser of the upper bracket as well when they go on to their semi-finals as well. So yeah, a very, very complicated way, at least for my aging brain to get its head round. But either way, it means that we get so much more excitement. And what I love is the fact that this is now held on for all 3 platforms as well. So we go through this for iOS, then we go on to Android, and then we go on to Windows and Xbox as well. So lots to play for. Again, Future Flash though, maybe no surprises there. You know, we look back to the history last time out, beating RPM Alex in that 4-2 final. So you know, he's got a name for himself at this point already.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the funniest things in Asphalt 9 is that rivalry between Alex and Future Flash. Unfortunately, Alex wasn't able to participate this time around, but the meme going around the community is that Alex always places second, Future Flash placing first. And I think now that Alex isn't here, Future Flash might be like, well, I don't have much competition. So I'm wondering if Flash has his expectations in check, because there might be someone here who could dethrone Future Flash this time around. But again, as I said, he's definitely the favorite coming into this tournament. It makes complete sense that right now he's in that upper bracket, sitting pretty. But what I love in any big esports competition like this is a classic lower bracket run to the finals. So, commiserations to Yafire. I think he played pretty well. It was just that one slight little mistake about calculating where the clipping on that building was. But, I'm hoping he can brush it off and go right into that lower bracket. And I think so far this is shaping up pretty well.
I couldn't agree more. We're about to go live with Phantom Blaze and Elite Joe. And just very quickly, you mentioned memes there. I don't want to jinx it, but we're 15 minutes in and we haven't heard chat say physics once yet. So let's keep that going. Phantom Blaze, though, off to an early lead against Elite Joe here at this early part of the race here as they cut through downtown, straight through that underground garage there. And yet again, this is exactly what we saw from the last race here, Nerf, is the fact that the driver in second place almost baiting that driver in front, just waiting to see exactly what they do as they go neck and neck.
Yeah, the second driver has to have a lot of patience. You have to look for the perfect opportunity to overtake, and this hook corner here is one of those perfect opportunities. We see the inside line coming up from Elite Joe. They're actually neck and neck right on top of each other. Phantom Blaze going over on the inside. Who's going to take this victory? It looks like Elite Joe's going to slightly pull out the victory here for this small battle, but it's only the battle that's won, not the war. So Elite Joe, he has to stand his ground now coming into the last section of the first lap. He needs to make sure that he doesn't mess up anything in the second lap, because well, he could give up this lead at any point. And Elite Joe is one of those players, like I said, he switched from iOS to Android. Or I'm sorry, the other way around. He would switch from Android to iOS. So I'm not sure if he's very familiar with the players smashing up against the wall. They're bumper to bumper, rail to rail. Phantom Blaze trying his absolute best to catch up. But Elite Joe is not budging at all.
No, beautiful, beautiful move there from Elite Joe there. Phantom trying to get the inside line, but you saw Elite Joe just getting a little bit of the shockwave sent into it, going bright pink there. That's the shockwave kicking in effect, gives that really, really big boost to the car there. And again, it's so crucial, the timing of when you bring shockwave in. We talked about nitro braking earlier on as well. We're not seeing too much of that in this particular fight here, but Elite Joe now just ahead. I mean, literally just ahead of Phantom Blaze just now. It really, really is far too close to call at this early stage.
Yeah, they're neck and neck, milliseconds apart coming into the last couple of jumps here. It's going to come down to how they chain their spins compared to Nitro Management and airspeed time. Elite Joe barely in the lead now. I think he's going to take this one, this first race on Osaka. Great job to Elite Joe coming out swinging with the victory. Props to Phantom Blaze, though. This was one of the closest races I've seen in Asphalt 9 in a while. That was truly awesome.
Wow, that is exactly what I was expecting. I was wanting that to kind of be the whole theme of the afternoon, but 0.3 of a second in Asphalt 9, that is next to impossible to get to. The thing is, though, for both Elite Joe and the other driver is going to be everything on this second map now, because it was way too close to call on that one, and that gives a lifeline. That could be anything to get that second round.
Absolutely. I think Joe's going to have a lot of confidence coming into the second map. That's going to make a big difference. That hairpin corner, though, on Osaka is very famous for some of the best overtakes in Asphalt 9, and we barely almost got that there in this race. So, and look, props to Joe for keeping his line in that second lap there, because you saw Phantom Blaze almost overtook on that hairpin corner the second time around. That's a very tricky corner to master. But of course, these players are both at the top of their game. Some of the best in the Asphalt 9 community, I might add. So, Osaka was a great map for the Revuelto with a great combination of acceleration and handling. And these players both took very good advantage of the car stats there on Osaka, but I'm curious to see if Elite Joe's going to carry that confidence into the second track. He is definitely a bit of an emotional player. Sometimes he's known to be rage quitting a bit sometimes if he doesn't do very well. So now that he's gotten this first place start, hopefully he's going to come into this second track with, like I said, a lot of confidence, a lot of hubris, and we're getting into that second track here now on Osaka again. Both these players rocking the Revuelto. I love that orange on the Revuelto, by the way. Of course, orange is my favorite color. But Elite Joe with the early victory, or early lead, I should add, here on the first lap of Osaka. But again, it's going to be neck and neck for the first couple of moments here on this track as we take it away in Osaka.
Yeah, both barrels rolling down the streets here in Japan. Beautiful, beautiful sight here on Asphalt 9. You can see on the right-hand side there, Elite Joe bumping into that shockwave. Both of them doing it at exactly the same time. And this is almost a carbon copy of the first race here. Way too close to call. Either of these drivers could take this second race here, and you can just see up in front there, Elite Joe powering his way through here. This is exactly what he wants to close out this early upper bracket match just now. Beautiful mid-air boost, and again, you were saying that there, Mark, so important for them to keep that airspeed and to keep the momentum up in these cars, as that's a wild tailspin for Phantom Blaze there.
Oh man, he almost messed up and actually went into the ground, and he knocked Elite Joe down. This is going to be a victory in the bag for Phantom Blaze. Oh my gosh, I think he actually landed on top of Elite Joe. That was incredible to watch. Elite Joe's got to feel extremely flustered. That confidence all pouring down the drain right now. Phantom Blaze is about to secure the second track here in this upper bracket. Well, he's going to send Elite Joe maybe to the lower bracket if he can continue this on the third map, but this is now getting really spicy. We were both expecting that very easy 2-0 victory from Elite Joe, but then the knockdown came out of nowhere. You can't even see Elite Joe on the map. There he comes around the hairpin corner. Phantom Blaze trying to play it safe. And wow, that happened in the split second, but Phantom Blaze managed to knock Elite Joe down over there, and I think he's going to take this second track.
Oh, I think it's absolutely undeniable for Elite Joe that he's going to lose out on the second map. F's in chat for that one. That was a very rare mistake there from Elite Joe to see that happen, as Phantom Blaze as well makes another mistake. Have I spoke too soon? Elite Joe gets knocked down again. Phantom Blaze out of absolutely nowhere manages to smash Elite Joe into the metaverse. What on earth? How do we even unpick what just happened there?
That was one of the weirdest finishes I have ever seen in Asphalt 9. We got a double knockdown after a wreck. Second lap right before the finish line. I'm pretty sure what happened was Phantom Blaze wrecked. After he wrecked, he went into Shockwave, but Elite Joe bumped him in the back while he wasn't in Shockwave. So Elite Joe got knocked down again, causing Phantom Blaze to win, which I think I've never seen a race finish that way before.
Oh man, I cannot even, I don't even want to see what chat are writing about this right now. The controversy is going to be way too much right now. As always, chat, we do love you. Get involved. Let us know who you're supporting. Let us know what drivers you are cheering for this afternoon. And please, as always, try and keep it respectful. We've got a lovely team of mods who are trigger finger happy this afternoon. So, Marv, I mean, again, that is absolutely wild. However, you know, being completely down the middle here, it's awesome because we get a third round in this one. How on earth is this one going to pan out?
Hey, the more Asphalt 9 we get to see, the better. So I'm excited for this third track. And, you know, initially when Elite Joe was knocked down, I was like, okay, his confidence might be gone. But then he saw Phantom Blaze wreck and then get a bit, maybe you could say a bit lucky with this second knockdown there, because Elite Joe almost had that victory because of the wreck from Phantom Blaze. And we're seeing the same track, so now these players know how how each other plays. So we're going to see if there's any sort of counters towards the other playstyles of these players. So Elite Joe taking that early lead like we've seen a couple of times here. He's got to look out maybe for that knockdown. We know that Phantom Blaze is a bit trigger happy when it comes to that. So Elite Joe's going to have to defend his line pretty good. Maybe look in that rearview mirror as we come into the straightaway into that hairpin corner. That's going to be the prime opportunity to Phantom Blaze to overtake.
For me though, Elite Joe, I mean, when we remember back to that second race, that was Elite Joe's own making that that collision happened there. And again, bumping into those objects, getting that nitro filled up there, pulling the barrel rolls as well, just making sure they can pull that nitro into the bar up the top there that you can see. It's so crucial here because it's absolutely neck and neck as we're about halfway through the first lap here. I think Elite Joe has to have a flawless run in this race right now.
Absolutely. Elite Joe has nobody to blame but himself for that second tractor, because he had the opportunity to take it, but for whatever reason, he slammed right into the exhaust pipes of Phantom Blaze. So here we see Elite Joe maintaining that lead. He's got the confidence right now. I think he knows that if he plays it safe, as long as he can nail this upcoming hairpin corner, that is the most important corner on this map. But Phantom Blaze is still maybe a couple tenths of a second behind, so Elite Joe has the opportunity to take this corner very cleanly, make sure he doesn't get overtaken, and that's what we're going to see. Elite Joe maintaining that lead. It's close just a bit here. Phantom Blaze does have an opportunity if they can get a lot of airspeed here in the upcoming corners, but Elite Joe just is not faltering whatsoever.
Yeah, you just see Phantom Blaze right now looks very, very ominous, stalking Elite Joe right now. Elite Joe's starting to get a little bit more speed there as Phantom Blaze decides to take the second of the three jumps and then pull the air stunt as well. I was noticing as well, Phantom Blaze's car bobbing to the front a little bit there, a little bit of rail guide, and that's it. Phantom Blaze into the wall there. Elite Joe takes it by 2/100ths of a second, and that's it. What a race that was, and we have our two semi-finalists already.
There we go. And like we've mentioned, favorites coming in from Elite Joe and Future Flash. So not completely unexpected, but commiserations to Phantom Blaze. What an amazing race. Very interesting second race there, I might add. But hey, who doesn't love something wacky and funny happening in Asphalt 9? And, you know, Elite Joe... those emotions must literally be a roller coaster, from winning the first race, losing the second race, but you could have won that second race, to winning the third race. I don't know what's going through his mind right now, but hopefully he's preparing for that next upper bracket match because, well, he's got to put his boots on and make sure that he maintains composure.
Well, let's turn our attention to the next match then. Fire, Elite Joe in that lower bracket then. This is basically the two of them trying to salvage whatever they can out of these finals just now. The winner will then go to play the loser of the upper bracket. I did get a little bit overexcited there and saying it's the semi-finals. Not quite just yet. This will be essentially the quarter-finals because we're away to decide what happens here. But as I said then, Fire and Elite Joe, from what I saw there, I think Fire is going to have to massively up his game. Two mistakes in two maps there. I think Elite Joe possibly on paper maybe has this one.
I agree, especially because Elite Joe has the experience when it comes to these 1v1 tournaments, these live environments. Again, as you mentioned before, these players are qualifying through single-player time trials, trying to get the best time possible. But, of course, in these matches, it's real-time multiplayer 1v1 with knockdowns and collisions. So you want to probably favorite the player who has more experience. And as we start here on Cairo, we're going to see Phantom Blaze versus Fire for that lower bracket match. Can Phantom Blaze maintain that confidence? They almost took a race off of Elite Joe, so hopefully they have that confidence. Got some barrel rolls coming out from Fire, and Phantom Blaze is going to be barreling into that straightaway section into the pyramids. And yeah, this top speed is going to be really important here, really crucial. We see some awesome rail grinding from Fire to take advantage of that airspeed. They're both going to go into the lower route here, get more airtime. Fire ever so slightly closing that gap between Phantom Blaze.
Yeah, of course it's Phantom Blaze, not Elite Joe in this one. I was getting a little bit ahead of myself. It's in this first of the lower bracket matches here. Again, the two of them just trailing each other very, very nicely. Indeed, Fire doing a much more solid job, I think, here at Cairo, doing a very, very good job of just holding on to that car just in front there, managing that nitro bar up in front here. But again, it does look like Phantom's starting to eke out a little bit of a gap here.
Yeah, we're going to see, especially on Cairo, the gap between the cars be a bit bigger just because of how long these straightaway sections are, but it's this last corner that we've seen that really makes the difference, and you can see Fire took it with a bit of a tighter line, going for more airtime here into the lower section of the bridge, and the overtake comes in.
Beautiful.
Fire overtaking. Yeah, that was just crystal clear and perfect. He is maintaining that lead, trying to block Phantom Blaze from that line, but he's going to overtake from the top. Oh my gosh, this is as close as he'd ever wanted, going upside down like a turtle. Oh my gosh, Phantom Blaze maintaining that lead, taking back what is rightfully his here on Cairo. Fire trying to go for that outside line, not very successful, but now turning to the inside, another overtake, and Phantom Blaze goes off the track onto the railing, and that might just secure it for Fire.
Yeah, that's it. Phantom Blaze wrecked out of the race. He'll get going again, but with 8% of the race done and dusted. What a performance that was. What a fight that was. Yeah, Fire absolutely making amends for those first two races, being knocked out of the upper bracket there. Phantom Blaze trying to make amends as to whatever he can do out of this one, but yeah, Fire, it's all about him for this first one here. Just a couple of corners left to go here at Cairo. What a performance, but really it's all about that middle part of the race. That is the closest we've seen two cars fighting it out so far in these finals.
That was an incredible battle to witness. Props to Phantom Blaze for making that extremely, extremely competitive. I think if he wasn't sort of like shoved off the track in that last little bit, I think it would have been an even closer race, as we saw those two. Well, you couldn't even count how many overtakes there were. They just kept battling each other, and that was really awesome to watch. That's something you don't really get all that often, but props to both of these players. But Fire is going to take that first map here. He's going to have that confidence. Phantom Blaze put it on the back pedal because, well, that must sort of affect the confidence, because he probably felt like he could overtake yet again, but because he was shoved out of the track, he sort of didn't have that opportunity. So I'm curious to see what strategy Phantom Blaze will pull off in this second track. Is he going to be more aggressive, maybe trying to go for an early knockdown, something like that? Just get rid of the other player, don't even think about it, just knock him down. Oh boy, he's going to have to choose a strategy wisely, because now he's down a map.
Race number 2 coming up very shortly between Fire and Phantom Blaze, but again, that's been the first one that we've seen so much physical contact here, Marv, between two drivers, and again, there was a lot to go for, and I wonder if there's maybe going to be a little bit of bad blood between them in this second race here.
That could be like a boxing match. We always say on the iOS side, it's usually a bit of a demolition derby, and well, I think that holds true this time around. We've seen plenty of knockdowns, a couple of wrecks here and there, but some amazing overtakes, some great clean races as well. iOS is giving us all of the action we could ever hope for in Asphalt 9. So here we go into the next race on Cairo yet again. And, well, I'm curious to see if these players will adapt to each other's playstyles. They're not going to go for that early airspeed there, but knocked into the railing. Phantom Blaze playing very aggressive there, not wanting anything to do with Fire in this next track here. He's going to take that early lead. Now, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. That was just pure punishment.
Oh, that was just absolute brutality from Phantom Blaze. I mean, there's nothing that you could read into that other than that was a message from Phantom Blaze to get back in your lane to Fire. I mean, to do that within 3 seconds of starting the race. Wow, I'm absolutely loving it. Phantom Blaze off to a flyer of a start here. Of course, it's not out of the realms of possibility. That was a little bit of a moment there for Phantom. Hitting that oncoming traffic slows him down just a little bit, but he's got so much time here to play with, Marv. He really can kind of take his feet off and just have a little bit of luxury managing that nitro right now. But again, we're seeing just how hard Yafire is pushing. And I get the impression here that if Yafire had played like this in the opening upper bracket match here, I think it would have been a different story.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, although I will have to say, I sort of called it with that early takedown from Phantom Blaze in the second track. That was making the future coming true. But seeing this gap close ever so slightly, but I think it's at the point where Yafire really doesn't have that big of an opportunity now. Phantom Blaze is going to play very carefully, cautiously, probably won't go for many nitro tricks like Yafire. They're jumping off the railing to try and get as much speed as possible to catch up, but I just don't see it ever happening in this world. Yafire getting flustered there, smacking into the barrier as a result of Phantom Blaze blocking. That's something you have to be aware of. Again, these players are probably used to just, time trials by themselves, never used to a player physically being right next to you, maybe not accounting for the fact that there's that physical contact, and Phantom Blaze took amazing advantage of that, smashing Yafire into the side of that barrier. That was something right out of a movie. I'd love to see it.
I hope that gets clipped, because that was just absolutely amazing. The thing is, that's the sort of thing that if it happened at a LAN event here, Mark, you know those two players would be sharing words with each other after the match. As Phantom Blaze comes down the line, then finish race number 2 to make it 1 apiece here and even things up in this best of 3 lower bracket match. Phantom Blaze finishing 5 seconds ahead of Yafire, and well, that got tasty very quickly indeed.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for 2 different races. That first race, we had incredible close contact, some amazing battles with overtakes between the players. And in the second, Phantom Blaze was like, you know what? Nah, I'm done. I'm just going to smash you into the wall, and I'm not even going to worry about you for the whole race. I'm curious to see if Yafire is going to respond to that in that third track, because he does have the opportunity to take it. These players are both tied up. Oh boy, are they both going to try to battle each other right out of the gates? That's going to be fun to watch.
Chat went absolutely ballistic when that happened. That's all I've got to say on that one. Yeah, just seconds away from the third and final round here. The gloves are off. You said it could turn into a boxing match. I think this is going to now turn into a mixed martial arts MMA free-for-all here. This is just... I mean, I've never seen anything like that before. Obviously, it's well within the spirit of things here anyway, but... I think you're right. I think there's going to have to be an immediate answer back there from Yafire. But what if that goes wrong for him?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for someone to try and knock someone else down with a 360, only to have their car smash into a barrier themselves. You got to watch out where you're placing your car. Sometimes that can be a problem, because when you're doing a 360, of course, your car is no longer a narrow thing. It's now expanded, right? Because, well, your car is now going sideways. So these players will have to be careful if they try to 360 one another. Although I do have to say, within the Asphalt community, a lot of players like to try and keep it clean. But through all of these overtakes and knockdowns, I don't know if that's what we're going to see here again on Cairo. This is going to be interesting to see if these playstyles are any different. Maybe some early airspeed. No, none whatsoever. Yafire maintaining that lead, blocking Phantom Blaze from taking that lead. And they're both going to be pretty darn close to each other, about a car length apart coming onto the long straightaway on Cairo.
Currently watching Phantom Blaze just behind Yafire. Yafire absolutely launching that car to the moon here. The Lamborghini Revuelto just doing amazing battle flips here through the back end here at Cairo. But it's Phantom Blaze still trying to hold on to the back end of that car there. Yafire wants nothing to do with it. He will happily see that car in the rear view mirrors. But Phantom Blaze again getting the shockwaves to perfection here, trying to get as close as he possibly can, but that gap up to now half a second and starting to drop back a little bit. This is a blazing run here from Yafire, doing everything he possibly needs to. 36% into the lap here, and again, this is a completely different race. Again, maybe showing why Phantom Blaze had to take down Yafire so early on.
He might have assumed that, hey, you know, this guy's got really good talent, really good skill. I got to get rid of him as soon as the race begins. But he didn't have the opportunity this time around. He just didn't have the nitro management. He tried to do a 360 to get more nitro in the air because he saw Fire actually run out of nitro. But that didn't seem to matter since he was in the air. So Phantom Blaze maybe wasting a little bit of time there, as I believe this lead into the second lap has been a bit extended by Fire as we launch themselves onto the barrel roll onto the straightaway.
Yeah, if you look at the point of contact for Fire as he's bouncing onto the ground there, trying to fire off a little bit of nitro to keep up that airspeed there, and a 360 I think that cost another little bit of time there for Phantom Blaze here. It's just all went into the hands of Fire here in this final of the best of three here in the lower bracket here. A little bit of a gap starting to close down though from Phantom Blaze here, and it's starting to get markedly closer. The pressure's starting to apply here for Fire, but they've only got a couple of corners left to go after this straightaway, and that's a huge shortcut there for Phantom Blaze there. Cuts into the lead. Wow, that is incredible stuff here. Still not quite there yet, and it's going to be Fire trying to hold on to it, but Phantom Blaze after that jump over the moon there, that was amazing effort.
No way he just did that. That is one of the riskiest maneuvers in Asphalt 9. You never know if the car is just going to wreck on that little section. Fire never even saw what hit him there. Phantom Blaze pulling out one of the rarest maneuvers in Asphalt 9 on Cairo to take that victory last second. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in Asphalt 9 esports. That was incredible by Phantom Blaze. Props to him because he just pulled off one of the best maneuvers I've ever seen. That is such a risky maneuver, but he knew what he had to do. He executed it perfectly. That was an incredible witness.
Chat are absolutely losing their minds at that. I can't fully appreciate what I just saw there. I mean, that was wild. To cut from one part of the track to another was, as you say, a massively risky move. To do that in second place on a map that you need to win seemed like an unnecessary risk when you're catching the car in front. But my God, did he make that work? And well, I think it's safe to say that he absolutely deserves to go through to that next round. And yeah, absolutely breathtaking move.
Absolutely. Phantom Blaze confidence must be brimming with joy there. Fire, like I said, he didn't know what hit him. He must be in complete disbelief right now as we're moving on into the tournament. And like you said, Phantom Blaze, I guess he now just deserves to be in this next match because, again, as soon as he went for that, I was like, okay, no way. This guy is out of his mind, because we've seen players try to pull off this, last second overtake, this last second shortcut. And more often than not, it doesn't work out. You end up wrecking the car, and he tried the risky maneuver just to try and catch up in that second place, but it didn't work out. This time around, it was executed perfectly. It was millimetrically perfect by Phantom Blaze, and as a result, he overtakes in that last corner, and that was just incredibly beautiful.
I could not even dream to pull that off in a month of Sundays. An amazing move, which secures his move into the lower brackets. Then to move back up, we turn our attention because we're off for race number 3. We're off to the Himalayas, and it's Future Flash, and it's going to be Elite Joe fighting off here. You can see Elite Joe on the right-hand side. You can see Future Flash on the left-hand side when they get themselves all sorted out. Now, who do we think is going to take this one then, Mark? Because for me, Future Flash, obviously off to an early start, but Elite Joe has the reputation behind him.
Future Flash is pulling out every single stop here as he grinds that railing to make sure he gets that top speed. Elite Joe didn't even know to do that, or he could have tried to avoid that being a risky maneuver, but Future Flash, as a result, makes that lead incredibly beautiful there. These are the two favorites, no doubt about it. And to answer your question, I think Future Flash is probably going to take it. He's used to this upper bracket match in iOS. Elite Joe, again, new to iOS. Not necessarily that there's a huge difference between iOS and Android, but the competition is different. You see a different personality between the different, devices there. Like I said, on iOS, sometimes you might see a demolition derby, and we've certainly gotten that with the past couple of matches. But Elite Joe has ever so slightly closed this lead as we come to the last section, the last corner of this first lap. Future Flash got to be looking at that rearview mirror, feeling a little bit scared right now, not knowing exactly what to expect. But I don't know if these players are really going to be that worried this time around, because I believe, oh my gosh, Elite Joe going for that inside line, goes for the double barrel roll, gets that airspeed. He's not going to lose too much time as a result of that, but Future Flash defending that lead.
One thing I've noticed as well is from these jumps, Elite Joe taking a little bit less of air in terms of like air time, trying to get that car down on the ground as quickly as possible. That seems to be, for me, where he's making up a little bit of the time. Not so much on here, but Future Flash, certainly on the landing, that's where Elite Joe making up some of the time here. And I get the feeling that this is going to come ahead very, very quickly indeed on this best of 3. Remember, the winner goes through to the final, and the loser will then play in that remaining match-off here. So again, just wild stuff right now. It's Future Flash then ahead of Elite Joe. We're almost at the end of this first map here, and compared to the other 3 matches that we've had so far here, this is a relatively quiet one.
Yeah, not a whole lot of contact there, as we see Future Flash finishing in first place with the Revuelto. Amazing stunts by both players. This was a very, very clean race. We saw just a little bit of that spark of Demolition Derby, a little bit of that overtake energy there. But I think, as you mentioned, it looked like Elite Joe just didn't get as much airtime, so it meant that he could catch up just a bit. But I caught on that second lap, Elite Joe failed to collect the yellow nitro bottle right before that jump into the chicane there, which I think cost him a bit of time because he didn't have as much nitro as Future Flash did. So as a result, Future Flash takes that first track there, gonna be filled with confidence coming into that second one. But hey, he's used to that, right? So I think that Elite Joe is gonna really have to make sure that he can think of something creative, think of some creative way to get ahead of Future Flash, maybe take him down in some, fantastic fashion.
I think also the other thing that we saw was the fact that Elite Joe had a lot of the pressure on him. Future Flash out to that early lead, not really having to worry too much. There was a point, as we said, about the halfway point where Elite Joe was starting to close that gap in a little bit there. But for Future Flash, again, you can just do your own race. You don't have to worry about protecting your lead from anywhere around you. So not having to worry about that. I wonder if Elite Joe is maybe going to try and apply more pressure earlier on in this second race here in the Himalayas.
Yeah, as you said, that aspect of trying to protect your line, protect that first place is very important. And sometimes what we see is when a player takes first place, they get a bit flustered. They get a bit worried about who's in their rearview mirror. And as we come into the second map here, we're going to have to see if the player in first place is going to get flustered. If it's Future Flash, probably not, because he has a lot of confidence. Elite Joe starting out on that inside line, and it looks like Elite Joe is going to take that early lead. Bit different than what we've seen last time. Are they both going to try to go for that barrel roll? It's a bit risky. Elite Joe, oh no, failing the barrel roll. Future Flash, yeah, right there, as you called it. I think that might end this race very early on.
Yeah, you hate to say it, but again, you kind of have to kind of go for it. But at this early stage of the race here, it's a difficult one to watch, especially as commentators, because you know that it's very likely now that we're not going to get a third map for these drivers here. But Future Flash there, it showed exactly why he has the name for himself, doing everything perfectly just now, keeping that nitro bar filled up as full as he possibly can. And how important is that, Marv, to keep that nitro bar and to manage the nitro usage here, as we're seeing Elite Joe really just bouncing off a pillar to post like a pinball here?
Nitro management is extremely important, especially in the Revuelto, when the shockwave, where you fill your nitro bar all the way to the top and give yourself a huge burst of speed, as Elite Joe does right there coming into the barrel roll, about to go onto the second lap. It's extremely important because shockwave gets you up to your top speed almost instantaneously compared to other forms of nitro. So keeping that, oh my gosh, Future Flash flexing on Elite Joe by completing that very tricky barrel roll. It was an early risk to take for Elite Joe, and Elite Joe actually wrecking all the way behind, trying to do it again. Oh no. He saw Future Flash flexing on him and said, no, I can actually do it. But hey, not all hope is lost for Elite Joe. He's going to go down to that lower bracket. But, his first encounter with Future Flash here on iOS didn't exactly go as planned.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a repeat of that, isn't it? Because he's going to take on Phantom Blaze very, very shortly, and I think Future Flash now just styling it out, I think, is the only way you can really say this, is just now be so far ahead of Elite Joe. And this is just the way the cookie crumbles in these races. You have to give it absolutely everything that you've got. You've got to try and use the game to your advantage any way that you possibly can. And yeah, I think that is going to be a fairly easy one for Future Flash when it's all said and done. Future Flash across the line to finish the race, and Elite Joe will come across the line in second place, just a very long way behind.
Yeah, there we go. Commiserations to Elite Joe up here in the upper bracket, but being sent now to that lower bracket. And no disrespect absolutely whatsoever to Elite Joe. You got to take risks, as you said, otherwise you're not going to get ahead. So I appreciate the fact that Elite Joe went for that risk very early on, but there you have it. Here you can see the bracket there. Future Flash making his way into that finals, Phantom Blaze versus Elite Joe in that lower bracket match to determine who's going to meet Future Flash in that finals.
Oh, that is a very stacked lineup. Now, if you're Phantom Blaze or you're Elite Joe, obviously you want to get into that final, but that is a very intimidating sight waiting for you there. Obviously, you know what? That's now 2-0 for our finalists just now, and again, it's just so difficult to see any way past Future Flash right now. And if I'm right in saying, and again, I'm very rarely right here, Marv, because Future Flash got those two unassailed wins there, he now gets a round up in the final. Am I right in saying that?
I believe usually in Asphalt 9, if you come from the upper bracket as well, you get a leg up in that best of 5 finals, but we'll have to wait and see if that actually makes a difference. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we see a reverse sweep coming out on the best of 5, and I love me a nice juicy best of 5, so I'm curious to see how that will play out. But as we talk about Future Flash a bit here, that's like probably the most expected outcome there, and I've actually been told that it's going to be a best of 7, which is extremely curious because I don't think we've seen a final in Asphalt 9 be a best of 7 before. I could be wrong on that. Usually it's a best of 5, but that is going to mean that now we're talking about endurance racing in Asphalt 9, which is something that these players are certainly not used to.
Well, here we go. This is the losers bracket then. This is to make it into the final spot in the final then. Phantom Blaze versus Elite Joe. And let's see how this one is going to go down, because of course they are racing on yet another track. This is going to be the Auckland Straights and Hairpins layout just now. We're on board with Phantom Blaze off to that early leads. And again, Elite Joe has to pull the cat out the bag here. It was Phantom Blaze that was looking scintillating in that second lower bracket match there to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat there. And Elite Joe trying to use as much nitro as he possibly can here. Phantom Blaze though, a little clip of the wall there, losing a tiny little bit of speed here. And I think there might be a little bit of blood in the water here for Elite Joe.
Yeah, this is a very curious race. We see that Auckland is a very typical curvy track, kind of similar to Osaka, but he's taking the outside line on the wall ride. That's going to cause him to catch up to Phantom Blaze ever so slightly. Could be looking in his rearview mirror, being a bit scared of Joe. He's only going to get 1 barrel roll. Elite Joe getting 2. That's going to give him a much bigger nitro boost coming into this second hairpin corner here onto that second track. Is going to go for the overtake, not particularly, but it's going to be very close, passing this finish line, going into the second track. Oh, Elite Joe almost overtaking Phantom Blaze, but they're neck and neck right now. Elite Joe not taking a perfect line. That's going to cause him to fall back to second yet again.
Yeah, you can see there Elite Joe continuously jumping into that shockwave. I think that was 3 times consecutively on the bounce that we saw that there. Phantom Blaze though jumping into shockwave as well here and starting to eke out a little bit of that gap. Elite Joe trying to bring him back here, but you get the feeling the damage might already be done. 70% of this map is already done here. And this is going to be nip and tuck, but you can just see Phantom Blaze starting to eke out that gap ever so slightly here. I think the writing is on the wall. I think the numbers might be already done here. Elite Joe, you get the feeling that luck is just not on his side today, but that's a little bit of a clip of the wall there for Phantom. Not going to cost him too much in terms of momentum, but again, it's just a case of what could have been, I think, for Elite Joe.
Yeah, Elite Joe closed the lead even more as a result of Phantom Blaze clipping that wall, but because this track is actually modeled off a real life racetrack, the racing line matters ever more so slightly here, and it looks like oh, is the pullout gonna come? No. Oh, it's gonna be Elite Joe trying to finish onto the straightaway, but Phantom Blaze is gonna take it in the end. Fumbling my words there because that was incredibly close. 0.2 of a second difference there between Phantom Blaze and Elite Joe. Phantom Blaze taking that first track.
Oh, that was so close, because Elite Joe, you just got the hint there, that final 3-4 corners there, the momentum massively swaying towards him there, and again, could have been a lot of a very different story rather, but again, just not on his side just now. Mind Game's going to be playing a huge part here of the race. What does Elite Joe have to do to actually get a break in this competition here?
I think he has to embrace that iOS Demolition Derby. We've seen that Phantom Blaze pulled off that match there earlier against Fire where he smacked him into a wall. I think Elite Joe's going to have to pull out some of that sort of Demolition Derby energy to secure another victory, because he's on the back pedal now. Now the pressure is really going to start to build for Elite Joe, and he's been in some of these situations before. We've seen his temper not be handled too lightly sometimes, but he said that he's changed. He said that he, has changed the way that he looks at practicing and competition. So I'm pretty confident that he has what it takes to, get off that back pedal and really take Phantom Blaze out to dinner here for this next track. But it's going to have to be aggressive from Elite Joe.
So you heard it here first, folks. Marv saying that he's got to embrace his inner Hulk mode. Is that what we're going to see here from Elite Joe? On the left-hand side, you can see Phantom Blaze. On the right, you can see already a little bit of contact there, but it's gone into Phantom Blaze's favour. It's all going to be about that early Nitro game and trying to get the upper hand here for Elite Joe. The rain starts to pour down here, but again, Phantom Blaze out in front, and I think that is enough to get the upper hand on Elite Joe. Certainly for the mind games here, Mark.
Oh yeah, Elite Joe knocking into that wall there. That's going to lose him a bit of time. Now the gap is still pretty close between both of these players, so it's not over just yet. But Elite Joe fluffing his lines a bit more, as you saw there. Not very, characteristic of Elite Joe. We usually see that he has very clean races, so I'm curious as to whether or not he's maybe being a bit flustered here. Maybe there's a bit of anxiety. I'm not quite sure, but Phantom Blaze is just gobbling up this track. There is nothing standing in his way between the Revuelto and victory here on this track here on Auckland, and Elite Joe is just feeling flustered, doing everything that he can to catch up to Phantom Blaze, but this lead is not budging whatsoever.
It really isn't, and I can already hear the cries of "let him cook," because that's exactly what is happening to Elite Joe right now. The pressure is on, and it is not going in his favour. We come round to lap number 2 here. And again, that gap starts to eke out even further for Phantom Blaze, already one up in this best of 3 to qualify for the finals here on iOS. And again, doing everything that's needed to be done. Unfortunately, it just has not gone in any way to the favour of Elite Joe today. And again, as you said, Marv, no disrespect whatsoever. This isn't a representation of skill in any way whatsoever. Sometimes it just doesn't go in your favour.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't think Elite Joe necessarily did anything wrong. We just saw that Phantom Blaze he's brimming with confidence now that he's exited that Demolition Derby earlier with Fire, probably thinking, you know what, I can take on anyone at this point, including the reigning champ Elite Joe. Or I should say, coming from Android to iOS, maybe that plays a bit of a part now, because as I mentioned, the playstyles on Android and iOS can sometimes be a bit different. So look, coming out onto iOS, completely new platform, Elite Joe finishing in this tournament, qualifying as well. That is absolutely no slouch, but we do see Phantom Blaze crossing the finish line and advancing into that final against Future Flash.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So we have our first final of the platforms set up already. And what a matchup that is going to be. We've got Future Flash and Phantom Blaze coming up in just a couple of moments' time. Now, we saw the aggression earlier on from Future Flash. Do we think we're going to see that as well? And we know that Phantom Blaze isn't afraid of getting their elbows out as well.
Yeah, I think Future Flash is going to have to do a really good job of defending his line if he gets into first place. I don't know how much contact we're going to see. Usually what Future Flash likes to do is take some sort of risk, some very treacherous maneuver to try and get ahead instead of physical contact, because sometimes it doesn't go your way in Asphalt 9 when it comes to physical contact. I mean, we've seen that in spades this time around, especially between the battles with Phantom Blaze and YA Fire. Sometimes that physical contact doesn't work out in your favor, so I'm curious to see if this clash between physical contact and risky maneuvers is going to pan out for either one of these players. You know, I think it's going to be curious or very interesting to see if Phantom Blaze tries to knock out Phantom or Future Flash earlier into the race. Again, this clash of play styles I think is going to be very interesting to watch.
The other thing you mentioned as well is we're moving away from the traditional best of 5 into a best of 7 format here for the finals. Buenos Aires Stadium Lap is going to be the first venue for our finals match here. Talk us through that as a circuit.
Yeah, so Buenos Aires is a very twisty track. Sometimes it can feel like you're stuck in a traffic jam on the 405 in LA. So they're going to have to take advantage of the Revuelto's amazing handling and acceleration. Again, getting up to that top speed is going to be very, very important, using Shockwave as much as possible. And as we mentioned with Auckland, racing lines are going to matter a lot here, making sure that you go into apexes very close to the corner, but not clipping it, because if you clip corners here, you don't get those perfect run nitro boosts. But as you said, we're here on Buenos Aires, an absolutely beautiful track. Phantom Blaze versus Future Flash for that iOS Grand Final as we await these players start on the starting grid. Yeah, we're going to see a huge clash of titans, especially with varying playstyles.
Race 1 then of the iOS Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Finals about to get underway. And let's get going then. Future Flash versus Phantom Blaze. You can see it's going to be Phantom Blaze on the right-hand side. And again, we're going to cut back for us a second because you can see one of the players there having some connection issues getting there. As much as we love a little bit of drama, it's not really fair if one player's got a 5-second head start. I think chat would rip us limb from limb as well. They'd hold us personally responsible for that one, Marv.
Yeah, chat can be brutal sometimes, man. The Asphalt 9 community, though, they're amazing. It does feel like a big family. And something that I want to mention as well is a lot of these players in these top ranks sometimes come from the same club, so you get that inter-club rivalry there going on, which I always love to see. But of course, when you get those two opposing clubs, sometimes, you know, that gets to be a really heated conversation, a really heated match, and you love to see it. That's especially when you see a lot of the Demolition Derby, a lot of that contact. Otherwise, you know, these players like to play it pretty clean, pretty safe, but that exception this time around has been that battle we've seen previously between Fire and Phantom Blaze, and of course Phantom Blaze's playstyle of just knocking the opponent out of his way. Look, it's something that hasn't been taken advantage of a lot in Asphalt 9. We see a lot of clean racing in the finals, and the contact and knockdowns just, you know, usually they're just a happenstance sort of thing, you know, players in the wrong place, wrong time. Whereas now we're saying, hey, you know, maybe I can take advantage of that knockdown, maybe I can take advantage of that contact, and Phantom Blaze is taking that strategy to the next level here.
Let's talk about the change in format, going from that best of 5 to best of 7. Do you see that making much of a difference in terms of the strategy going on for Future Flash and Phantom Blaze? Will they be able to adjust to that easily enough, or will that not really make any difference at all to them?
I think for Future Flash, it's going to be another walk in the park for him because he's used to these grand finals. He's been there, done that, whether it is a best of 5 or best of 3. He knows how to maintain his composure and also block players from catching up to him after he goes into first place. So for Future Flash, I don't see it being too much of a problem, but for Phantom Blaze, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if he can really take a best of 7 as well as Future Flash probably will. So it also depends on the track. Some players prefer different tracks to others, so it depends on the lineup of tracks as well. Starting off on Buenos Aires, I'm not too sure exactly which player has that advantage because they're in close proximity to each other. I feel like Phantom Blaze, he might have that advantage because he can get very, very close to Future Flash and maybe knock him down.
Yeah, certainly, for sure. And confirmation, it would appear that Future Flash, as we said, because of the double win, the unassailed run in the bracket stages, getting that one round boost to that. So Future Flash already a round up. So here we go then. The first round to the finals is underway, and the argument's already kicking off here, Mark, because there is a huge bit of contact there between Future Flash and Phantom Blaze, and the boxes are well and truly off.
Yeah, they're pounding each other one-on-one, rail to rail, bumper to bumper. Future Flash actually being the aggressor here, trying to push Phantom Blaze off of that ramp first time around, but it doesn't work in his favor. Phantom Blaze takes an early lead, but they're so close. They're pretty much even right now. It's just a car length or two apart going onto these barrel rolls. It's really important to take advantage of a lot of this wall riding here to make sure you maintain your speed. Future Flash taking a very nice cutting edge there into that apex. He's going to ever so slightly edge his lead right next to Phantom Blaze. He's going to go onto the outside line going into this corner, and this is a very, very short track, so that's going to be very important. And Future Flash, because of his racing lines, takes the lead into the second lap.
Unbelievable set of corners there from Future Flash there. Exemplary skill there, sets him ahead of Phantom Blaze here as we're into the second lap of this race then. 67% done on this race here, and it's all to do for Phantom Blaze right now out of absolutely nowhere. Future Flash was knocking boots there with Phantom Blaze, and it didn't happen at all. It's going to be 1-0, it's going to be 2-0 now for Future Flash. A little bit of an uncharacteristic mistake there for Future Flash. Gives a last bit of hope for Phantom Blaze though, but surely it's not going to count here. Phantom Blaze moves from one jump to the other there, trying to keep that nitro bar filled up. But again, I think that's the wrong line to take through that corner. Wrecked out at the end, but it doesn't matter anyway. Just 0.6 of a second in it, but it looked a heck of a lot more out there on track.
That difference in that first lap between Future Flash and Phantom Blaze, the line that they took, that made all of the difference there. Future Flash knew exactly what perfect line to take in that series of barrel rolls, and I was not expecting that much of a lead to come of it, since usually on that track, I never thought there was that big of a difference between which lane you take, but apparently I was wrong. Future Flash proved right in which section that he took, and as a result, he takes that first map. But of course, as he mentioned, he's now technically 2-0 up because he has that upper bracket advantage. So I'm not sure how Phantom Blaze is feeling right now. It might be a bit flustered because might not expecting Future Flash to be so aggressive during that, right as soon as the starting grid appeared. He was knocking Phantom Blaze out of contention there on that first ramp. That was something I was not expecting, honestly.
So 2-0 up already then for Future Flash. I believe we're away to another race here at Buenos Aires Stadium before moving on to Rome, to Rome Tiber Stream for the next match here. But I mean, 2-0 already. That is a big ask to undo there for our drivers to do. Do you think Phantom Blaze has got enough left in the tank here? Is it going to have to be more aggression early on?
I think he's really going to have to go for a knockdown if he wants any chance of beating Future Flash, because we've seen that Future Flash, at least on Buenos Aires, has a mastery of the racing lines that Phantom Blaze wasn't even aware of. Maybe Phantom Blaze thought his route was faster, but it turned out not. Phantom Blaze trying to cut on the inside, but Future Flash blocked him at the last second there. He's going to keep an early lead, unlike what we saw last time. So now it's up to Future Flash to block Phantom Blaze, to try and maintain that lead and make sure he doesn't get flustered. But, Future Flash is probably just brimming with confidence. I've said that term a million times here. They're both going to avoid that barrel roll, making sure to go for that inner section there, that inner route, making sure that they cut through those apexes. Future Flash bumping the line just a little bit. Phantom Blaze cutting down on the lower part there of Future Flash. Actually, we see Phantom Blaze taking the same line as Future Flash, learning from his mistakes earlier. Phantom Blaze going on the outside though, almost clipping the edge, but Future Flash making sure that he maintains the lead coming onto the second lap.
Yeah, you saw that there, that switch around from that first race there. And again, Phantom Blaze having to play catch up here, a little bit of a tap at the wall here. It's all those little bits there that are catching tiny little bits of momentum, killing that drive, that forward progression from Phantom Blaze right now, as they've only got another 25% of the race to go here. Future Flash doing everything that he needs to do right now to make it 3-0 and get a stranglehold on this best of 7 to put it to match point already, and this is thrilling stuff here. You get the feeling that it is all Future Flash. But have a look at Phantom Blaze. That gap is starting to come down here, Mark, and it's all going to be down to the line.
Oh, there we go. Future Flash just barely maintaining the lead in the last couple of seconds there. It looked like Phantom Blaze had an opportunity to catch up, but we saw that he actually ran out of nitro during those couple of barrel rolls towards the end. So I think if he had enough nitro, he maybe could have contended Future Flash for that victory, but Future Flash just... of course, what else can he expect from the king? He has perfect lines, great nitro management, amazing, taking advantage of that acceleration from the Lamborghini Revuelto. And, who could expect anything less than a victory? But we're going to go to a different track this time around. So maybe Phantom Blaze has something up his sleeve, maybe something he's been practicing for that, maybe undoing what Future Flash did on Buenos Aires. We'll have to wait and see. But that was a pretty spicy race.
We're off to Rome now, as you said. Tiber Stream, what can we expect from this layout of the Rome track?
So Rome is actually a lot more of a mix between straightaways and corners compared to Buenos Aires. We saw there those players might feel a little bit claustrophobic in the streets of Buenos Aires, but Rome, there's a lot more room to stretch these players' legs, a lot more opportunity, especially for airtime, and some opportunities for wrecks and maybe clipping the edges of buildings like we saw earlier on in the tournament. So just because there's more room to play doesn't mean that there's any less skill in mastering this track. It really depends on not only how much airtime these players can get, but also in Asphalt 9, even though you might have more airtime than your opponent, if you're going at a different trajectory, so let's say you go all the way up instead of forward, you're still going to lose time. You're going to go that 30% faster than your ground speed, but it also depends on the direction and like I said, the trajectory of your jump, and that matters a lot on Rome. As we saw earlier, a player messed up and actually clipped the top of a building, so that's going to play a very critical factor here as we start on Rome.
Yep, here we go then. Match point for this finals here. Future Flash on the left, Phantom Blaze on the right hand side. Excuse me, it's the other way about. As we see Phantom Blaze going to an early second place there. Future Flash already back into the left hand side. Unbelievable start there for Future Flash. And again, Phantom Blaze having to try and do all the work here, trying to catch up to this this championship final, because it's all go. And Mark, again, Future Flash having an amazing start here.
Yeah, Future Flash, of course, no shy victory to first place. He's very used to it right now. But Phantom Blaze doing a great job of at least trying to maintain his composure and make sure he doesn't fall back too much. But again, Rome, those jumps are going to matter a lot, and Future Flash taking advantage of it, coming onto the final section here of this first lap. Phantom Blaze maybe just out of confidence right now. It was a battle of trials and tribulations. But this next section is going to be very important. I think, as you mentioned earlier on, he hit a bit of traffic there at the start, and I think that caused Phantom Blaze to fall behind a bit. But that is a very risky maneuver to pull off that extra little barrel roll instead of doing a 360. That's going to cut away from some of the lead here. Oh, and almost a bit of a barrel roll. Tried to cancel before he fell on his back like a turtle, but hitting the traffic car. Such an unfortunate line there. That was so close to being perfect, but Future Flash, well, we know him as Mr. Perfect as well, but he is soaring into this straightaway here in first place.
Yeah, it's one hand on the finals now. The champion just a couple of corners away here. Phantom Blaze, absolute desperation coming out right now, and to his credit, still starting to chip away at that gap in front. The fireworks going off in the background here at Rome. It's been an exemplary display from Future Flash from start to finish. It's been unbeaten every single way here. A clean sweep, something that I can't remember seeing here on Asphalt, and it's great to see here at the finals of the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Cup. What a performance for Future Flash. 4 out of the 7. I don't think he could have dreamed of having a better finals here.
That's something you pointed out. I didn't even realize myself. That is a perfect run. to the first place victory there from Future Flash. I don't know if that's ever been done in Asphalt 9 Esports before, but Future Flash, of course, is no stranger to winning. Congratulations to him for winning this iOS bracket, and of course, commiserations to Phantom Blaze. What an amazing performance. Absolutely love his play style. I'm very excited to see him come back in future tournaments, but Future Flash, of course, maintaining his title as the king of iOS tournaments.
Yep, back-to-back champions then here for Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Finals. Future Flash taking the iOS platform by dominant form, winning every single match of his seeds in a completely unrivaled way. I don't think we're going to see that for the rest of the afternoon. And quite honestly, I mean, there was a noticeable difference in the skill and ability of the other drivers compared to Future Flash. It's like a completely different level there, Mark.
Yeah, he's turned everything up to 11 here in Asphalt 9. He's really taking advantage of all the speed tricks and, of course, all of the Revuelto's amazing statistics as well, taking advantage of that insane acceleration. We've seen him go into Shockwave and use that a whole ton, especially throughout Rome. And again, props to Future Flash. It's tough to come up with adjectives for how good he is at Asphalt 9. He's heard everything at this point. The best, king, perfect, but he's done it yet again.
Well, that is iOS done and dusted, but don't go anywhere. We've all got time for a quick coffee break, quick cola break, get it all filled up, get the popcorn back on, because when we come back, we do it all over again with Android. And my goodness me, I hope we have a fraction of the entertainment we just had. We'll be right back. Back, ladies and gentlemen, to live coverage of the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Finals. It's David Christie here with you alongside Marv, giving you live coverage here on Asphalt 9. If you just missed it, where have you been? iOS finals were off the hook. Future Flash wiping the floor with the entire field of three other drivers. And Marv, I mean, we've got Android next, but that sets the bar like so high. I've got no idea how we're going to even come close to it.
Yeah, we had a cartwheel of carnage and chaos on the iOS bracket, so Andrew's gonna have to follow up with something spicy, man. I don't know what to say, but yeah, we're gonna show here the Android bracket, and if you're familiar with Asphalt 9 Esports, you'll recognize a bunch of names here. Jägermeister, Myun, Sukti, both returning faces. Nissan as well, I believe, also has some experience, so this is going to be a very stacked bracket indeed.
It really, really is. A lot to talk about as well. Obviously, the format we're familiar with, having just done the iOS, but a bit of a grudge match is going to come up as well, because obviously, as you said, Sukti, Jägermeister, they're no strangers to this, actually taking part in the last championship. But it's going to get underway then. Jägermeister and Nissan starting us off here in the finals for Android. It's going to be Jägermeister on the left-hand side, Nissan on the right there. And again, we're back to the streets of Rome as Jägermeister takes an early lead there. And again, it's all about getting that early lead, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Jägermeister taking that early lead, and it's all about defending that lead once you've got it. Barreling over this building there, making sure not to clip it as earlier. But Jägermeister is one of the best players on Android. I'm expecting great things. But as I said, Nissan doing an overtake underneath through the barrel roll, a 360 trying to come out, maybe trying to knock down from Jägermeister, but it just wasn't far enough. Nissan barreling onto the straightaway in first place. Is going to hit the building? No, absolutely perfectly. That was so close.
Oh my god, that was a mistake from Jägermeister, clipping the wall that took him back there. He's got another one now, dropping back about 0.8 of a second. Nissan, I mean, these cars just seem like a million miles faster than on iOS, absolutely flying over the buildings there. The same move that we saw failing on iOS just about 20 minutes ago here. Jägermeister, despite that early lead, having it all to do against Nissan right now, up ahead by about 0.5 of a second. We're just about to start onto lap number 2 here on the streets of Rome. But this first match in the best of 3, getting off to a wild start here, Marv, and Nissan really in the dominant seat right now.
Jägermeister's going to have to do something extremely risky if he wants to catch up, because Nissan's not giving up an inch. But I'm going to have the caster's curse all day long, because as soon as I say that, Nissan wrecks into the Rome there, and Jägermeister takes a very sizable lead. That flipped on its head incredibly quickly. I was not expecting that at all. Jägermeister must be extremely confused as to what's happened, but he's happy because he's in first place now. And Nissan unfortunately gave up what was an impressive lead, an impressive overtake against Jägermeister. But I think that is going to confirm our first race of the Android bracket.
Wow, well, I'm not saying anything until the final sort of couple of corners here, because we've seen it all go to hell in a handbasket just less than a minute ago here, where we thought somebody was well out in the lead, and they've absolutely binned it. But Jägermeister back to the front here after that mistake, that uncharacteristic mistake from Nissan there, crosses the finish line. Best of 3, round 1 goes to Jägermeister, who decides to wreck himself just because he can, basically, as Nissan comes across the line there. And again, I mean, what on earth happened there to Nissan? Again, we didn't see it because he was so far out in front, and Jägermeister must be absolutely grinning to himself after that one.
Yeah, he didn't need to do anything whatsoever. He just he rolled with the punches, and one of those punches included Nissan wrecking. And I believe what happened was he tried to clip that railing to get some more airspeed, but maybe tipped the car just a bit too far to the side and went into the river. We're gonna have to get a replay maybe of that later, but wow, Jägermeister's gonna be pretty happy with that, because like I said, he didn't really need to do much to get that win. In fact, he was barreling in second place before Nissan made that mistake. So I don't know if he's going to have necessarily a lot of confidence coming into this second track, but he's certainly going to be at least happy with the results so far.
Wild stuff. And again, Nissan being a bit of an unknown entity. We've seen a lot of the other drivers in previous championships here. So again, a big stage. And as you said, a lot of these drivers can be very fast in time trials. That's how we did the qualifying for this event here. But it's a completely different animal once you have another car beside you on the track. And that pressure is absolutely real.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a bit of that with the iOS bracket. Elite Joe maybe feeling a bit flustered when he was facing Future Flash. He tried to pull some risky maneuvers and it didn't turn out very well. So we're going to have to see on the Android bracket whether or not these players prefer more risky maneuvers or if we're going to see more clean, risk-free races here as we go on to Rome in our second track yet again. Jägermeister is going to fight for that victory, fight for that early lead, and he's going to get it, making sure that he's not going to give it up so early on. Nissan going to go for that outside line into the inside with a different line. That's absolutely insane. That was so close, but he just clipped that wall. They're losing a bit of speed. And Jägermeister, he's going to push that pickup truck into Nissan. They both lose a bit of speed, but I think Nissan actually went for the worst out of that one.
So what I've noticed as well is Nissan pulling the shockwave just as he goes onto the ramp, getting him much further airtime, but I wonder if that's actually getting him any benefit whatsoever, because it's really not pulling him any time here, but Jägermeister not able to pull away as much as I thought he would be. What I have noticed though, this second round, a lot more physical than the first one here. You could see the aggression between Nissan and Jägermeister, just really pushing it to an absolute extreme, but Jäger just starting to pull a big gap there now, and this is where the problem comes in for Nissan. It's all or nothing. It's do or die at this point here, Marv.
The jumps in the hills that we saw earlier in the grassy section, you want to get as much airtime there as possible. Jägermeister got a basket and bucket, both in the same. He got a load of airtime there, whereas Nissan unfortunately didn't have a lot of nitro management, and so he failed to get a lot of that airtime. So as a result, Jägermeister got a bit of a lead there as a result of that airtime. But yeah, that was just a very close encounter there in that first lap. As you said, different to what we've seen on that first track. Nissan going to try and maintain his composure and make sure, give himself a chance, some room to improve and, close that gap between Jägermeister. But Jägermeister is making sure he doesn't make any sort of mistakes, and I think he is destined to win this. But, I say that as if, I'm expecting something bad to happen, but at this point, anything is possible.
It really is, especially when you call it like that. That's twice now we've had that where you call it and then something bad happens to the car in question, but it does look very good for Jägermeister right now. Just a couple of corners away round this last right-hander to take the win and to take this match in the upper bracket. 2-0 here for Jägermeister. He's going to progress through the semi-finals. Great job for him. It's better luck next time for Nissan, who will be in action in the lower brackets. But again, just a better display there from Jägermeister here, Marv.
Honestly, I would say coming into this, Jägermeister is probably my favorite for that lineup. And well, as I predicted, Jägermeister takes that victory. It was close. I think Nissan put up a really great fight. And again, not all hope is lost for these drivers. There is a lower bracket where we will see Nissan compete against the loser of our next match. But Jägermeister is going to continue into that upper bracket as expected, in my opinion. But look, Android is a feisty platform. These players are constantly battling one another for the world records on these tracks. So I'm expecting some pretty great races here coming up in this Android bracket. And Jägermeister proving once again that he is certainly a force to be reckoned with. But what I love about Jägermeister is that he's very humble about how good he is at the game. So I'm curious to see, is his humility going to play a factor with maybe how his playstyle clashes with other playstyles? I mean, he's very good in game, but we'll have to wait and see.
Second upper bracket just seconds away then. We're off to Osaka and the Industrial Revolution. And it's Mayon versus Sukti. Now, Sukti trying to basically repair the damage of what happened in the finals last time out. That devastating 4-0 loss that he had inflicted to him by Dark Hyper. He's not going to forget that one in a hurry. But again, a good early start to this finals here, and he could very much repair things.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I want to mention as well is Mion has very recent tournament experience in Asphalt 9, but it was in a live LAN environment. Now these players are online. Now, of course, they're competing one against another. Lots of contact, as we've seen previously, lots of knockdowns, but they're in their comfort of their own homes or wherever they choose to play. So I'm curious to see if that's going to make a difference with Mion, because we saw he was absolutely amazing in those live finals. But here on Osaka, that's going to be a tricky track to master. We've seen last time the combinations of different jumps one after another in the last section of the lap was, well, it wasn't problematic, but there was a lot of difference between the players here, and that hairpin corner that we've seen, especially with Elite Joe in the previous iOS bracket, that was a super critical moment in those races. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be a deciding factor this time around.
I would have been happy to have this as a final, to have Mion versus Sukti, to have it as our second upper bracket match is going to be absolutely stellar. And again, having the early start to that upper bracket means that they do get that extra chance. If they do lose this first match, they do drop down to the lower bracket and do get another chance to take things on. But basically, the loser of this match will then face off against Nissan to get into the semi-finals and then get into the finals as well. So there's still everything to play for here. But again, I do wonder, is there ever in your experience, Marv, in Asphalt 9, like gamesmanship instead of strategy in terms of like deciding who you'd rather play against? So for instance, if there's a really strong player in the upper bracket, would you maybe rather go down to the lower bracket because you fancy your chances more?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Most of the time, what ends up happening is, well, yeah, as you mentioned, there's a good chance that you might face maybe the best player in that upper bracket. So we've seen some players, be not excited to go down to that lower bracket, but, as we saw previous with Elite Joe, because he faced Future Flash before the finals, he got that second chance. He got used to playing Future Flash, so he had a better shot of going right back into the finals. Unfortunately, that wasn't the way that it turned out. But sometimes you might want to face, the favorites earlier on in the tournament just to get a feel for things. But as I say that, we're here on Osaka coming up against that very important hairpin corner. That is going to be an extremely important factor here, as Mion is only about 1 or 2 car lengths behind. Are they both going to have shockwave enough for the exit of this corner? They are. Mion ever so slightly gaining, just about tapping exhaust pipes of Sukti. They're neck and neck. They're about to go into this corner here, and it looks like Sukti's going to maintain the lead coming out of that corner.
Yeah, Sukti just grazed his nose on the inside of that left-hander. That's what caused a little bit of momentum allowed Mion to get back into things, though. Again, losing a little bit of time here, but look at the pace from Mion. Right back onto the tail end of that car just in front. Sukti not able to take any liberties whatsoever here. This is going to be a wild finish to this race here as we're nearing the end of the first lap here. And Marv, again, from Sukti's point of view, doing everything you possibly can, but how much pressure will he be feeling right now knowing Mion? He just looks at the map on the left-hand side, sees Mion just inches away from him.
I mean, seeing the angry look in Revuelto in your rearview mirror's got to be definitely give you a lot of pressure, but they're almost neck and neck on the straightaway again, going into that hairpin corner. This is going to be Mion's opportunity to take the lead into the second lap, and he's just not fast enough. That was so close, but Mion doesn't get into that first place. They're battling neck and neck, slamming against the wall. Mion trying to battle ever so slightly for that first place, but he's going over rough terrain, losing a bit of speed, and it's just not going to pan out for him. Sukti doing an absolutely amazing job of defending this first place, and even though it's close, it seems like Sukti is bound to win this first map here on Osaka.
Yeah, the pace has just been a little bit too much here from Mion. Oh, we say that though. Sukti makes a mistake, gets caught out in mid-air.
Oh my god.
Mion takes the win. How in earth did that just happen there? Right, firstly, we're not even going to say anything, Marv, about you calling things, and immediately it gone the other way. That's now 3 times we've had that happen, ladies and gentlemen. But Mion, out of absolutely nowhere, Sukti clipped the bridge as he was jumping over it, and then that caught him out. I don't have any words for that.
I've been watching esports for almost 10 years now, casting Asphalt 9 for a couple of years. I thought, the caster's curse isn't real, right? Like, there's no way that what I say actually makes a difference in the game. But you know what? Maybe I just should stop talking every once in a while, because that was incredible. you know, I don't want to say that was just some stroke of luck, because that was an amazing race by Mion, never losing his composure. He had many opportunities to overtake. Sukti did an amazing job of defending his lead, but at that very split-second last decision to go above Sukti on that bridge made the difference, and that means that Mion is now up 1-0 in this match. I'm still recovering from that last little bit. It's like playing back like deja vu. It's like, how does that even happen again, man? That's ridiculous.
I mean, for me, it was the aggression. That's what piqued my interest initially, and it was the aggression halfway through, the fighting and the physicality of it all. Then it started to eke out a little bit, and Mion starting to drift away there. But I tell you what, after that first race, he needs to get a balaclava and a striped jumper on, because that is a new career in thieving things. That was an absolute steal to take that win. How furious must you be if you are that other car right now? Because quite honestly, he did have that stolen from you, and Sukti will be feeling a little bit sore, I think, after that one.
Well, I think maybe like me, Sukti's just maybe confused, like how, like, well, he didn't do necessarily anything wrong. I mean, Mion just happened to have that ever so slightly more airtime, didn't clip the bridge, as you mentioned, right during that couple of last seconds in that second lap. But Sukti did everything in his power to maintain that lead, both in the first and the second lap. Again, I thought he did a great job doing defense, but it was just that little bit of airtime. And because we're on the same track, I'm very curious to see if Sukti is going to approach that jump lead differently. Now that they are bumper to bumper here on this first straightaway, we're going to be settling in here, seeing who takes the early lead. It looks like Sukti is going to maintain that front side position there. Mion on the back pedal, but, you know, I would say early on, hey, you know, now Mion's on, you know, you got some pressure being in second place, but I think now the pressure's on Sukti. Maybe he wants, you know, like, maybe it's like, oh, maybe I should be in second place, and Mion actually jumping onto Sukti. That was almost an incredible knockdown, and we're going to go into this hairpin corner here to see who comes out in first place.
This is make or break for Sukti right now. He needs to win this to stay in the finals so far, at least in the upper bracket just now, because Mion doing everything he possibly can. A little bit of a mistake there from Mion, tail clipping that end. That takes away a little bit of the momentum from that car there. But the thing is with Mion as well, all you have to do is sit on the back end of that car. Sukti is going to remember exactly what happened in that last race there, and he is not going to want that to happen in any way whatsoever there, as the two of them barreling off of that wall there and into the shockwave twice in a row. Another shockwave there for Mion, and the two of them again so close to being neck and neck here through Osaka. Beautiful, beautiful circuit here, lap number 2, and there's still nothing to split between them just now, and you get the feeling that a mistake is going to decide this match.
Absolutely, and I think this hairpin corner coming up is going to be, again, very important. It's going to be the opportunity Mion has, because ever so slightly, even though this race is still close, I believe the gap is a bit wider than we've seen, and here we go into the hairpin corner, both of them using Shockwave out, but it looks like Mion is only barely going to gain some momentum ever so slightly. The race has become ever so slightly closer, but Mion, again, that line there in that chicane is just a bit out of focus because he clips that wall like he did last time, but as I say that, again, he's ever so slightly creeping out on Sukti's tail. This is going to be another close finish. They're right on top of each other.
Oh my good lord, this is far too close. Sukti is going to take this second one though, as Mion comes across the bridge as well there. It was so very, very close. Sukti regains composure, makes it 1-1 in this upper bracket fight there. And again, that was millimetres from disaster for Sukti, because you just got the feeling there Mion could have squeezed his nose in front. I thought there was potentially going to be room for a takedown there in that final couple of corners there.
Okay, I'm not going to say, again, about the Caster's Curse thing, but as soon as I said that the gap was a bit wider than that first track, immediately Mion closes that gap, goes right on the bumper of Sukti. Now, Sukti manages to maintain composure, and I think he did a great job of correcting for what happened last time. Amazing stuff coming out from Sukti, making sure that he secures this second track, and now we're all tied up here in this best of 3. So both players have an equal chance of progressing, but again, not all hope is lost if they do happen to lose, because there is a lower bracket waiting for either one of them. But that was another very close race, one that happened to go against what I said in that second lap.
I think for me as well, performance-wise, the two of them right here, whoever loses this, I'm going to say right now is going to be in the final. I think the two of them have just been absolutely stellar right now, and it's difficult to see how they're not going to progress. The next match after this one for the upper bracket, I think, is going to be a very, very different kettle of fish nonetheless. But Mayon versus Sukti, then this is it. It all comes to a head here in the upper bracket. Who is going to go through in the upper bracket and who is going to get demoted to the lower bracket and face off against Nissan in that one? Mayon, you can see they're trying to keep ahead there, but Sukti just doing everything that he needs to do to hold in front just now. And again, it repeats itself. Sukti ahead at this early stage here, but Mayon will feel, I think here, Marv, that he knows exactly how to get under Sukti's skin.
Yeah, Sukti doing a great job blocking Mayon from the optimal path. We saw Mayon had to actually go like across the bridge there onto the opposite side. He got airtime as a result of that, but he had to cut the corner and he hit some walls there. Mayon making that correction, not hitting the wall here on the chicane, but Sukti blocking again from that ramp. He's doing a great job, but as I say that, it looks like Mayon takes the lead ever so slightly, making sure to go underneath Sukti, and Sukti now is going to be bumping into the wall a couple of times there, and Mayon extends this lead as a result of that. What an amazing sequence. He's going to hit the bridge. No, he hits it, but no wreck. So that was a very nice recovery there from Sukti onto the second lap. It looks like Mayon maintained a pretty decisive lead here.
I wonder if damage is done for Sukti though, because that is a hell of a lot of momentum lost because of that contact there. It was very, very aggressive from the pair of them there, and it's all fair in love and war here in Asphalt 9 Legends. This is what esports racing is all about, and this is the Android platform finals here. Sukti versus Mayon, and again at this upper bracket stage of it, we've still got another 3 matches left to go here, and you would think this is the grand final for things right now, but it's surely all over for Sukti. Another mistake there, dropping even further back now, and again it's almost impossible to see any way here, barring a disastrous mistake here for Mayon, for Sukti to regain onto this.
Mayon getting 2 barrels, Sukti only getting 1. That's going to lose some nitro for him, but we see Mayon playing it perfectly, crossing that finish line, taking this match against Sukti. GG's to both players. This was an amazing section of couple of races here. It was very back and forth, and we saw some great overtakes, some surprises, some, I guess you would say, reverse psychology predictions, but Mayon is going to be progressing into that upper bracket as a result of his victories here on Osaka.
I love how brutal chat is right now. Just no sympathy, no love whatsoever. It's, single barrel roll. It's like, I'm looking at that, I'm like, I couldn't even get a barrel roll at that point. I'd be straight into the bridge and off to the nearest hospital at this point. But again, just showcasing exactly how fine the margins here, Marv, are at this very, very top level of Asphalt 9. We've got the best of the best players here, and confirmation that Jägermeister is going to face off against Mayon, and then it's Nissan versus Sukti. I think Sukti will potentially edge out. That's the match that we're going to see up next, Nissan versus Sukti. And again, I think Sukti very, very eager to undo that damage of that upper bracket. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's similar to what actually happened last time out in the finals. He lost his first round. In fact, that is what happened. He lost his first round, but then still managed to go all the way through to the finals.
Yeah, Sukti on the back pedal, you would say traditionally, but like you said, he has experience in this lower bracket, and I would also say just in general, he's probably the favorite in this matchup against Nissan. You know, we saw that with Jägermeister versus Nissan, the favorite won against there, but we are on a different track this time around. We are going to be on Cairo, a very top speed focused track. That's going to be very important for the Revuelto. You want to use Shockwave, get up to your top speed, but make sure that you can back down from Shockwave onto single nitro so that you can use the top speed for as long as possible. And we saw there on the iOS bracket, lots of risks being taken on this track, so I'm curious to see if any of these players are going to have the guts to go for something like that. But, you know, it's going to be a close race no matter what, so I'm super excited.
Yep, Cairo Nile River is the host of our next matchup here in the Android bracket, the Android platform, of course. We're awaiting Nissan versus Sukti, just waiting for both the drivers to connect to the server here. And again, for Sukti, it's quite a quick turnaround. He's already done three matches here. But again, just got to go and jump straight back into it with a new driver and a new map as well. And again, just showing how different it is doing these time trials as to jumping into a live online environment.
Again, you have to, in that live environment, you have to take account for the fact that there's another car next to you. And so we've seen a huge consequence of that this time around, especially with a couple of players blocking their rivals from getting some airtime on those jumps. Now, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But that is a very big factor because as soon as your line is off, you have to correct, right? So these players have to make decisions in milliseconds to make sure, okay, my line that I wanted to take previously is now unavailable. So that's something we might see here as we go on to Cairo Nissan versus Sukti in that lower bracket. Definitely want to say that Sukti is the favorite, but you never know, something interesting could happen. We saw Sukti try to block Nissan a bit there. He's going to take a vast lead here coming out on this first lap.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by that. I wonder if Nissan tried to do a 360 there and just wasn't fast enough to actually trigger that going there, and it's a difficult one to undo here. But he gets a barrel roll onto the rail grind there, straight into the shockwave. Beautiful move there from Nissan. He's doing everything that he possibly can to undo this damage. But again, the question is, when you're up against Sukti, almost wrecks there. When you're up against Sukti, can you afford to be making these mistakes at such an early stage here, Mark?
Yeah, it seemed like Nissan was almost scared of Sukti. He was like trying to back off and drift a bit out of the way, but tried to take advantage of that rail bump, but it didn't pan out. Sukti is now miles ahead of Nissan here on Cairo. Well, I was about to say it looks like Sukti is going to take it from here on, but I really should stop trying to predict something like that. But Nissan wrecks a second time. Maybe I think now I can confidently say that Sukti is going to have this one in the bag. He's almost half of a lap ahead of Nissan at this point. Now, I assume that Sukti is going to take this next lap pretty cautiously, pretty carefree, making sure that he doesn't take any unnecessary risk because, again, he's almost a full half lap ahead of Nissan.
I do hate seeing this. I've been in this position in many different games, not Asphalt 9, but any other game I play. When you're at this point, and everyone else can recognise it as well, when you're just so frustrated at how you're playing and the red mist comes over and then you start making mistake after mistake after mistake here, and that's exactly what we're seeing here from Nissan. Lack of composure, lack of concentration, and this first one is almost certainly in the bag from Sukti. And I would argue that even if Sukti was at this point to make a mistake, the gap is so big now to Nissan that it wouldn't actually matter. Best of 3 looks to be going to the way of Sukti early on. And my question now for you, Marv, is how do you get out of this headspace if you're Nissan? How do you get your composure back and get yourself in with a chance here?
That's a tough question because it feels like Nissan was just a bit intimidated. Oh, he's going for it. Oh, I don't know if it worked out. No, he wrecked. That was unfortunate. Hey, props for him to trying. I don't think it would have landed him the victory. Sukti was just so far ahead, but he tried that risky maneuver. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out. We're going to see Nissan roll across the finish line here in a couple of seconds as he goes around this 360 corner. But going back to your question earlier, I think he just needs to get over the intimidation. And in my opinion, if I were in this situation, I would just try to go on the aggressive side. I would say, I felt a little intimidated. Obviously, it made me a bit nervous. And as a result, I wasn't playing as well. So I need to get ahead of myself. I need to make sure that now I'm the aggressor in the second match coming up. So I hope that Nissan comes into the second track here with a bit more of a positive outlook, maybe a bit more aggressive outlook as well, because honestly, I think that is going to give him the biggest shot at taking the second track over Sukti. But Sukti doing a great job there of maintaining his composure and lead and claiming the first track.
1-0 first blood for Sukti in this best of 3 lower brackets match, and Nissan with it all to do after that one. If you have just joined us, a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are in for an absolute treat here for the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Finals. It's David Christie and Marv taking you through all of the action here. Marv, we've had everything we could have possibly asked for, and we're literally just at the halfway point now because we're at the tail ends of the Android matches. We're doing the lower bracket finals just now. Then we'll move on to the semis and then the finals in just a second. Sorry, the finals in just a second. But again, the aggression and, as you said, it was intimidation. That was the real thing. Nissan just didn't get off to a start at all.
Yeah, usually we see if there's going to be contact in Asphalt 9, players don't try to back out of it because sometimes that'll lose you the line that you want. You never really know what's going to end up happening as a result of contact, but we saw early on in that race, Sukti was about to bump Nissan, and Nissan just drove out of the way. He drifted to the side, and that basically just led Sukti to victory, as we see another early lead being taken by Sukti, but this time around it's much closer. Looks like Nissan tried to stay out of the way and make sure that he didn't need to drift to not get knocked down, so this race is a lot closer starting off here on Cairo yet again.
It is, but it's deceptive because you saw Sukti there immediately. It just seemed like a game intelligence thing because Sukti was immediately able to get the shockwave fired up very, very quickly indeed. And it just seems it's all about nitro management right now. Nissan, though, you're absolutely spot on, much, much closer. And for me, this is now dangerous because Nissan could have a real go here.
Oh, there we go. Nissan with the incredible overtake, taking advantage of the airtime, using that rail to grind on it and make sure he doesn't hit the ground. But it looks like Sukti's going for the inside line again. The double overtake, smashing him into the wall. Lots of aggression coming out from Sukti, and that means he's going to maintain this lead going into the 360 corner, right about to go into the second track. Or the second lap, excuse me. Nissan gonna feel a bit flustered after that. He did a great job taking that victory, that overtake, but Sukti pulled it right back from the clutches of Nissan. And it's going to be very crucial to see what happens. They're both going to go for the underhand airspeed there, but Nissan trailing ever so slightly behind. That was a great sequence on the first lap. Nissan needs to repeat it, but make sure that he maintains the lead if he does overtake.
Yeah, he does. Gets the rail grind again and absolutely smashes that car into hyperdrive right there. Gets the speed, and Sukti really starts to get clawed in here from Nissan. This is a better turn of events here from Nissan right now. Again, bumping off that tail end of the wall there. Doesn't seem to help him out, so it swings and roundabouts. He catches on a little bit and then starts to lose out again. But this is a much better show here from Nissan. A spirited effort here. It's still Sukti in the lead here. He's trying to go from one end to the other there, and Sukti actually looks quite vulnerable here.
Oh, he went for that jump, but at the last second he realized he would smash into the pole. Great decision making from Nissan, but is it enough to make sure that he can catch up? An extra 360 coming out from Sukti, that's going to leave him a couple of milliseconds vulnerable, but it's just close enough. I don't think he's going to take it. Nissan trailing ever so slightly behind in a much cleaner race. Sukti takes the victory in this best of three between Sukti and Nissan.
And that is all she wrote then. Sukti taking that win. It's going to be 2-0, which means that we say goodbye to Nissan very, very shortly if he doesn't get his act together. Because remember, Nissan now has one final match against the loser of the upper brackets. And then we go to our final as well. So the upper bracket then is going to be Jägermeister versus Mayon. The loser of that will go on to fight Sukti, excuse me. And again, it's a difficult one to see here because obviously I'm getting myself completely mixed up there, thinking that Nissan still had another chance. But I was right the first time. I should have trusted myself. Nissan does go bye-bye. But for Sukti, I mean, that was a very, very appealing second race there.
Yeah, he definitely chose the route of, I'm going to play it safe. The other player clearly seems a bit flustered being in this situation. He has the experience of being in these finals before, as you mentioned earlier. So it makes sense that Sukti was going to take this win. And you know what? Look, again, commiserations to Nissan. Absolutely amazing driver. It's not like these players who are losing in this lower bracket are playing poorly, right? These players clearly are at the top of their game to even qualify for a tournament like this. So, here's to hoping that Nissan can come back better than ever in the next tournament. But we're going to move on to Himalaya for our next best of three in that upper bracket between Jägermeister and another favorite as well. But we're left with those favorites, as I mentioned. Nissan, unfortunately, not able to take the victory. But Sukti, Jägermeister, and the other player is, they're all extremely experienced. So it's going to come down to maybe those risk-taking maneuvers.
This, for me, is going to be one of the highlights of the platform just now, seeing Jägermeister face off against Mion. They were both very, very strong in their opening matches. They face off here, and only one of them is going to go through to the final directly. The loser will have to play another match, as we saw there. But again, a great matchup in store, and two very, very strong performers out on top here. Who do we think is going to come out on top on this upper bracket?
Oh, that's a great question. I think probably Jägermeister has the slight edge here. Bit more tournament experience. Mion no stranger to these tournaments, but as I mentioned before, more used to actual in-person lands. So not sure if that is going to change the attitude coming into this race. I think it's definitely more even this time around than the previous couple of matches that we've had, certainly. So it's going to be tough because, yeah, Jägermeister, he has that experience. Mion, a bit more new to the tournament experience, as I mentioned, but they're both amazing drivers, and they're both qualifying with amazing times here as we get into the Himalayas, as I said. And yeah, this is going to be a very close race indeed. We're going to have to wait and see if any aggressive maneuvers come out, because Jägermeister is not known for it. Neither is Mion. They're both amazing, humble players who are both at the top of their game, but Jägermeister is taking the early lead here, and Mion goes for that barrel roll, does complete it, goes for the rail grind as well, and catches up to Jägermeister.
Unbelievable start to this race then, as we're seeing Mion here. Both of them trying to absolutely give it everything. As Jägermeister runs out from the lead of the race, Mion takes the early lead there. It was all for nothing for Jägermeister, and that lead has been absolutely decimated. Not only that, that is going to be a big gap now for Mion, and that is a huge, huge advantage to Mion.
Oh wow, we can see Mion actually waving the white flag for Jägermeister there. Both of those players went for incredibly risky maneuvers there. You never exactly know what's going to happen when you grind on those rails, and Mion got the better of that situation. Jägermeister trying to take it maybe a little bit too far there on that second, but Mion actually got a barrel roll from hitting the railing first time around, which was pretty awesome. I haven't seen that many times before. So yeah, he definitely took advantage of that. Jägermeister maybe feeling a bit flustered after seeing that Mion was about to catch up. He was like, oh, now I need to really make sure that I can pull off a risky maneuver to maintain my lead. Maybe that, him getting flustered caused him to wreck on that rail there, but Mion nevertheless is catapulting himself into this second lap here, and of course, as I say that, he catapults himself into a traffic car, but nonetheless, his lead is very large, so I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
At this point, as Jägermeister wrecks yet again, that race is done and dusted. It's going to be a 1-0 for Mion as we hit the 70% dismat point in this first match here. For Jägermeister, surely it's going to have to be a case of just dust yourself down and kind of rethink your strategy for the second race, because now, obviously, going into the final, if he was to win this, he's now not going to have that initial head start of one extra round.
Yeah, exactly, as you mentioned. But I think as well, Jägermeister now has to reconsider his strategy coming into this second track here. We're going to see, I believe, the same track again. So it's going to be interesting to see as Mion crosses the finish line and makes it 1-0. We're going to be witnessing whether or not Jägermeister chooses to go risky early on in the next track, because that was sort of where he got flustered this time around. Mion unexpectedly pulled off a great overtake there at the beginning. So who knows? Will Jägermeister try to go more risky? Will he maintain his humble composure? Maybe let Mion try and do some crazy thing, wreck himself? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Coming up in the second race soon.
Well, best of three, we're about to find out. And again, it's all on this second round here. It's all or nothing, you've got to say, because putting yourself at that position early on leaves Jägermeister very, very vulnerable indeed. And this is what we saw from Nissan, that early stage where you just have to throw everything in the kitchen sink at this second round. It can go your way, but it can quite often fail and end in misery as well. And definitely, if I'm honest, not the way that I thought that first race was going to go. And again, just showing you how high the pressure is at this level of esports.
Yeah, and of course the margins are closer than ever. I feel like if Jägermeister didn't wreck, we'd see one of the closest races yet. We're going to maybe see another close race coming up here shortly as well. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it because, of course, things aren't over yet. This is a best of three. But that's going to be an interesting thing to see if Jägermeister adapts his playstyle to what happened with Mion. If Mion is maybe going to adapt and maybe do some reverse psychology of, okay, now that I got Jägermeister feeling a bit flustered, maybe I can play it safe, let Jägermeister try to take those risky maneuvers and fail while I catapult myself into the victory. Because these players, I'm sure, are thinking about every which way, every corner, every nitro bottle, every situation that they can think of. They're running it through their mind, and they're making these split-second decisions all the time.
The other thing I was just realising there is that it's kind of, for Jägermeister at least, he'll be feeling, I would imagine, a certain way, because if he loses this match, he'll then go off to face Sukti, and given that the battle there, I would put the favour in Jägermeister's favour on that matchup, and I would think Jägermeister would put the favour in that matchup. As we go back to round 2 of this best of 3 then for the uppers bracket, Jägermeister and Mion, then Jägermeister on the left hand side, Mion on the right hand side there. You see Mion just dropping back down a little bit further back here. As you said, I think Jägermeister having to do everything he possibly can to try and take this win right now. Two of them taking different lines here, and absolutely into the air. Mion gets it all wrong, and it's a carbon copy here, and except it's the other way around.
That is actually one of the funny. Okay, no way. This is gonna be close. Oh gosh, Mion is catching up very quickly. Jägermeister in the shockwave, making sure he maintains that lead, but it's ever so slight. Mion actually accelerating, going under Jägermeister, but they're still neck and neck close as we go into the cave. Oh my gosh, that sequence of events right on top of each other, completely unexpected.
It really, really was. Mion absolutely bent it, wrecked the car, and Jägermeister for the briefest of moments getting a little bit of an advantage there. The two of them boosting their nitro all the way down the hill here as they come up to the short, sharp hill. Up through the air there again, Jaeger taking slightly less air, getting a little bit quicker onto the wheels there, jumping into that shockwave as we go into lap number 2. Them both exemplary displays of nitro management right now here, but it has to be more for Jägermeister. He needs to get more out of this. If he's going to stay on, he tries to get the rail grind onto the wall, and surely Mion has to have this now. No, Mion's wrecked again!
Oh, the caster's curse is absolutely real. Oh my gosh. But Jägermeister is still far behind, so he has a lot of catching up to do. Oh, I was holding my breath there for a second. You scared me there when you said that. I thought what you were going to say came true. But wow, that was a weird sequence of events there. Jägermeister, unfortunately, even though Neon Red couldn't take advantage of that. And wow, I have to compose myself for a bit there. I was not expecting all of that to happen so quickly.
So how can I'm trying to get my head around that, because Mion wrecked and left the track, but still didn't lose anywhere near the same amount of time that Jägermeister actually did on that one. And that is going to be it. That is going to be Jägermeister down into the lower bracket semis to try and claw some sort of a finish here. A 2-0 win for Mion. I don't think either of us had that one on the books.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I mentioned that both these players are very good. They're at the top of their game. Both are veterans of 1-versus-1 tournaments, but I was not expecting Jägermeister to lose in such a fashion, whether or not that was as a result of some crazy antics there with the barrel rules and whatnot. But wow. Just to comment on your question there earlier, I think it was because as soon as Mion had the lead and Jägermeister wrecked, it seemed like Jägermeister, he was drifting a bit more, doing some wiggle drifting, maybe giving up ever so slightly. So I feel like he wasn't expecting Mion to wreck yet again to give him that opportunity to catch up. And unfortunately, he didn't take advantage of that. That's one thing, even though we say that a wreck is really important in Asphalt, it gives about like maybe a 5-second gap as we take a look at that bracket again. Mion going into that finals, Jägermeister dropping down to that lower bracket against Sukti. But again, not all hope is lost. There's still a chance for one of those two players to make it back into the grand finals.
Right, I'm going to be honest, as we go to Auckland's and the straights and hairpins layout of that track there, as we've got Jägermeister versus Sukti, I'm going to retract my previous comment now, because suddenly I'm not so confident that Jägermeister is going to be able to make his way through this one with Sukti. I think it's going to be far closer, and if anything, I mean, that's two sets of really, really uncharacteristic, unforced errors there from Jägermeister. That didn't look like him at all.
Yeah, we've seen Jägermeister, during that first lap there, I said that he's probably going to take things a bit more carefree, make sure not to go for a bunch of those risks. And we saw when he got flustered, when that strategy didn't work out very well, he went for those risks in the second track. And that also, unfortunately, didn't work out for him. So I'm wondering if he's going to keep that second playstyle in mind against Sukti, a very fierce competitor himself. Whether or not these two will clash of playstyles, we'll have to wait and see. But it is going to be a fearsome lower bracket match no matter what. And at least I'm glad that called the fact that that second track was going to be a bit closer than the first one. And I think we at least got that. But nonetheless, great job by Mion catapulting himself into that upper bracket final, or in fact the grand final, I should say, as well. Again, changing to best of sevens here as well, so keep that in mind. That's going to be a very important factor as well.
As someone new to the Asphalt 9 ecosphere, I'm loving the community and I'm loving just gauging the reaction from things. And it feels like chat hate every single track that there is out there. Auckland getting a lot of smacked heads as well. So again, what makes a track good in the game and what makes a track bad in the game here on Asphalt?
Well, it seems like a lot of the players like to prefer the top speed oriented tracks. Auckland is one of the prime, examples of a twisty track, one where racing lines really, really matter. So there isn't necessarily a lack of, opportunity to showcase your skill on a track like Auckland, but players prefer the wide, vast open spaces of the Himalayas, but there is always something nice about the tight corners of a track like Buenos Aires or Auckland. It really gives these players the ability to showcase their talents when it comes to handling, because the top speed focus tracks is where you really want to see a lot of airspeed tricks, making sure those players take those risks. So, the audience loves to see the risk that, hey, we saw a couple of risks being taken there in Cairo as well, and one of them worked. So, fair enough to the audience, but I will say there's certainly a lot of skill to show on the tracks like Auckland and Osaka. Buenos Aires is another one as well.
I wouldn't worry about the audience right now. They're going off on topics at the rate of knots right now. They're complaining about touch driving now, so God knows what they're going to be onto in the next couple of minutes. But if you are out there watching us, thank you very much. We appreciate you spending your afternoon with us. This is the lower finals just now. This is the semi-finals deciding who is going to go into the final then, and it's Jägermeister versus Sukti fight out to see who's going to fight off against Mion. Jägermeister behind Sukti at this early stage of the race here as a wet Auckland, a bit of bumping and grinding here, and Sukti getting the upper hand here.
Oh man, they're exchanging paint chips there as Jägermeister tried to overtake on the outside, but Sukti doing a great job blocking Jägermeister, making sure to not fluff his lines. But it's still close. Anyone could take it at one point. Whether or not Sukti will make a mistake, that's yet to be seen. Nice double barrel roll coming out there from Jägermeister. Sometimes you only get one barrel roll from that ramp, so it's nice to see Jägermeister take advantage of that. And there we go, onto the straightaway. We're going to see maybe these players go a bump against the rails. Oh, Jägermeister doing a great job maintaining nice air time there, making sure that he uses a 360 to stabilize himself and not wreck. And as a result, he ever so slightly has gained some corners and some positioning up against Sukti, but Sukti still maintains a pretty good lead coming into the last hairpin of the first lap.
Again, the pair of them, it's been identical shockwave usage at the moment, although Jaeger getting a little bit of a shockwave right there, but again, not able to actually pull the gap in any great means whatsoever. Lap 2 in this first of 3 races that we've got here for this lower semi. And again, Jägermeister starting to lose a little bit of touch here to Sukti, trying to do these wall grinds, and it is catching him up ever so slightly. But is it going to be enough there? Front nose grinds against the rail there. I think that's going to lose a tiny little bit of momentum here. And again, you have to wonder, what does Jaeger have to do to get a run on here, as he's really making these uncharacteristic mistakes.
Yeah, he really hasn't taken advantage of the rail grind we saw last time, but especially in the second lap ever so more. That's going to be even more important, and we'll have to see if Sukti follows suit with that air trick. Is he going to go for it? No, Sukti won't. Jägermeister doing a forced barrel, but actually misses the rail, goes onto a different route. I don't think it's going to pan out for him, as now he's going to be in a bad position for this next corner coming up. Sukti catapulting his way. Oh man, that was a close call by Jägermeister. He didn't wreck, but unfortunately he missed out on that rail grind, and Sukti is bound to take this first section here, this first track in this lower bracket match. Suki crossing the finish line here on Auckland.
Yeah, he didn't wreck, but I think it had just as devastating a performance for Jägermeister there, over a second lost in on that first race. And you've got to say the momentum is not with Jägermeister right now. It is not going his way. And again, that mentality, you have to get yourself out of that headspace.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult to imagine, how Jägermeister is feeling after, I think this would have been 2 or 3 losses in a row. Probably not feeling very good. Definitely not feeling good if you're going into a lower bracket against someone who is fierce to get back into those grand finals, make up for what happened last time around as well. But yeah, Auckland, look, it's a tricky map. We've talked about, what the community likes as well. And there is a pretty good example as to why. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to showcase your talents in terms of racing lines. It's not just simply get more airtime in a track like this. You really have to pay attention to not only your nitro management, but as we saw, if you're going to go for a risk, it has to be pixel perfect, because there aren't that many opportunities on Auckland to take a risk like that. And so if you happen to go for it, you really have to nail it right.
Again, on the surface, Asphalt 9 Legends, one of those games that looks very, very simple and very straightforward to take part in, and which, for the most part, it is. But so many different layers of strategy when it comes to performance and to competitive gameplay here. You really, really have to spend time learning the intricacies of the way this game plays.
Yeah, the skill ceiling between these players is massive. There's always new strategies being developed. If you're a new player, watching these pro players battle it out is amazing experience. You'll really get to learn the right routes, all of the little tricks that these players use to shave milliseconds off their time. But we're going for a second round here in Auckland. Is Jägermeister going to fluff his lines yet again? Suki, again, doing another great job of blocking Jägermeister from that first place position there. And now Jägermeister again on the back pedal, on the back foot here, coming into these couple of corners here. He's trying to go for the inside, but Suki still maintaining composure and making sure that Jägermeister doesn't catch up to him.
Yeah, he really did a great job of putting that car exactly where it needs to be. Aggression being the name of the game, but it's not enough. Jägermeister slips up in the inside there and takes the early lead here in this second round, doing exactly what he needs to do. He needs to win this to stay in with a chance of holding on to any hope of these finals. And Suki now in that second position, starting to fall back a little bit. Does the rail grind there. Beautiful job there. Backwards 360 on the rail, lands it perfectly into the shockwave here at Auckland. And again, absolutely nothing to separate these two here. And you have to say, Jägermeister, where was this performance in that first race there?
He waited for the absolute perfect time to overtake, one of the cleanest overtakes, I might add, and basically executed it perfectly. Suki opting to do some 360s instead of barrel rolls, making sure that he doesn't get stuck with one barrel roll and doesn't have any nitro. That's going to make sure that he doesn't fall too far behind Jägermeister here on the straightaway to the second lap. Nice little triple barrel roll coming out from Suki, but it's not enough for Shockwave, interestingly. So he's not going to catch up to Jägermeister. He is taking incredibly close lines here, cutting that apex perfectly like a chef chopping the tomato. Suki still on the back lines here, not doing enough to catch up to Jägermeister. And again, yeah, as you mentioned, where was his performance from Jägermeister in the first track? He didn't even have to go for that rail grind like he had to in the first track. That's sort of what messed him up now, but he is now so far ahead that he probably doesn't have to go for that risk. We'll see if they both take it, though.
Well, the one thing that I've noticed as well is that Jaeger just so clean and clear here as Suki starting to bump and grind off these walls a little bit, losing a little bit of time, losing a little bit of speed here, and it looks like that Jägermeister have done everything that he's absolutely needed to do to hold on to this series here, to get that first rounds in this best of three matchup here. And Suki going to be licking his wounds, I think, a little bit after that one. He wants to try and get into the final, but again, it's all going to come down to this final race here as Jägermeister goes across the line then to win convincingly, you have to say as well, ahead of Suki. That is exactly what the doctor ordered there, Mark. You said he needed to get the win to get that confidence back up. And I think this one is going to be all guns blazing for the pair of them now.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a huge confidence booster for Jägermeister making sure that he doesn't feel flustered into this last track, this last chance for either one of these players to make it into that grand finals matchup with Mian here. Jägermeister probably wanting a bit of a rematch from what happened on the Himalayas, not feeling too good, but I'm glad to see Jägermeister recovered it here on Auckland. I believe we're going to go for another round on Auckland, and this time, who is going to take more risks? Who is going to come out in first place in that beginning lap here? I think that's going to be a very important factor because we've seen Sukti has amazing defense skills up until a couple of corners where Jägermeister took advantage of the Revuelto's handling, managing to grab that inside line, that inside corner, and cut through Sukti's line. Amazing job by Jägermeister. And honestly, this is looking pretty too close for me to call this last time around. I think they're both in great spots to take it.
What does your gut say, Marv? I'm gonna call it right now because for me, I think Jaeger is going to take this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think my gut is with Jaeger as well, but hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Suki manages to pull off another victory. They're right behind each other, exhaust tips touching, and Jägermeister making sure that he gets some airspeed, and there we go. Suki
first knockdown.
Yeah, first knockdown of this series. So far, it's been super clean. And if these players made a mistake, it was from themselves. But this time around, Suki, unfortunately, going to be a couple of seconds behind as a result of that knockdown. Jägermeister is just now leaps and bounds ahead in this first lap.
I'm scared, if I'm honest, Mark. We both agreed on something, and opposite is coming true. I'm like, what is going to happen is somehow, Jägermeister are going to get nuked from the server or something like that. Sukti, joking aside though, really struggling to get any grip into this, doing a little bit of a wall ride to try and pull this gap back, but again, it looks like the damage already been done, and to have that happen, Marv, in such an aggressive way as well, just adds insult to injury, doesn't it?
Yeah, sort of adds salt to the wounds there. And as we mentioned, this track is extremely technical. There aren't that many opportunities for airspeed tricks and whatnot, so every little chance you have to take to make sure you either maintain a lead or block your opponent. That's exactly what Jägermeister did, taking advantage of that knockdown, catapulting himself into that lead. Man, Suki must be just feeling awful. He had every opportunity in the world to take it, and as we both predicted, Jägermeister is, I shouldn't say almost guaranteed to win this next track, but so, we'll leave it till the very last second to decide. Suki is ever so slightly catching up, but I don't think it is going to be enough. I believe it is too little, too late. Very unfortunate for Suki, but they both played amazing races during this tournament, but it seems like Jägermeister was destined for that rematch against Mian.
I swear to God, if we see Jägermeister went off track, I'm going to cry at this point in time. 85% into this final map of the best of three in this lower semis, and it looks like it's all about Jägermeister pulling it from the jaws of defeat. He was 1-0 down against Sukti. He's done everything he needed to get a strong finish in this race. It's going to be Jägermeister into the final there after what could have been anyone's race whatsoever. Sukti taking that second place, and will have to make do with taking third place overall, which sets herself up for the final of Mion versus Jägermeister. And given that Mion did a 2-0 against Jägermeister in there, do we think that Jäger's bounced back though? He's found that magic again?
Oh, that's got to be tough to call. I mean, Jägermeister is usually very composed. His races are extremely clean, and there you can see the bracket as well, ending up with Mion and Jägermeister in that grand final. Sukti dropping to that lower bracket, and unfortunately not able to make that lower bracket run. It was an amazing attempt by Sukti, though. Commiserations for some amazing races as well. But going back to what you said, I think this is definitely going to give Jägermeister a boost of confidence, but Mion has, he has that 2-0. He has that, he's brimming with confidence. He knows he can beat Jägermeister. He also has that advantage coming into the best of 7 here. I think it might be a bit too much for Jägermeister. Sometimes when we talk about competition, right, you have to have the competitor's mindset. If you come in with a humble mindset, that's great, awesome for sportsmanship. but when it comes to it, you have to have confidence. You have to know in your heart that you're better than the other player. And if Jägermeister doesn't have that, he might not be able to take it here on Buenos Aires against Mion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As we're just moments away from our final, then Mion versus Jägermeister, best of 7, about to kick off very shortly. Just the way to say as well, chat absolutely agreeing with us for a change there, Marv, as about 88% of them thought that Jaeger was going to win that one, and that is exactly how that all went down. Again, you got the signs there, and it did look like that was how it was going to pan out. But now we turn our attention then to Mion and Jägermeister into the final then of this one. And I'm also realising that, of course, now I was wondering there, because obviously Mion into the finals here, because he didn't lose any of his matches. I mistakenly thought it was like if they hadn't lost any rounds of their matches, but because Mion went straight through to the final, he gets that 1-0 head start. Now that adds a completely different complexion to things, given the 2-0 that Mion had earlier on. I think everything is like piled against Jägermeister, but we're just seconds away from finding out, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Android final here for the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge Finals. Let's get underway. Mion on the left, Jägermeister on the right-hand side. Jägermeister taking an early lead. The pair of them doing 360 flips over the edge here at Buenos Aires. And Jägermeister into that early lead. And again, we've seen how difficult that can be to hold on to that one.
Yeah, and you can absolutely feel the tension between these two players. It is palpable as fan favorite Jägermeister is gobbling up this track here, but Mion is so close to actually taking advantage and cutting the line into the corner. Mion maintaining a lead and actually doing a perfect overtake against Jägermeister. And of course, as soon as I say that Jägermeister is gobbling up the track, he wrecks as well. Oh no, man, this is okay. And Mion, this is gonna get close.
Wild stuff there, and that was all on that contact earlier on from Jägermeister colliding with Mion and then just losing all sorts of balance here. And this is what we didn't want to see, because we saw it earlier on where Jägermeister just pushing that car a little bit too hard. I mean, obviously being a fantasy car, you can do some pretty wild things, but again, just not able to. And there's another example, Jäger bouncing the nose off of the wall, losing even more time, and the composure, you've got to say, I think it's absolutely gone in this first race.
I think it's broken, man. That is some fumbles that is very uncharacteristic of Jägermeister, as Mion is now catapulting himself finish line on this first track of Buenos Aires. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, this is now going to be 2-0 lead for Mion, as he has that upper bracket advantage. But this puts into question everything we've said about Jägermeister. I mean, he's coming from the lower bracket, so again, not going to be as confident naturally as Mion. But I thought that the win over Suki was at least going to revitalize him a bit. But we've seen a couple of mistakes from Jägermeister that are, like I said, very uncharacteristic of his very calm, composed play style, bumping into the walls there a couple of times on Buenos Aires. It's a tricky track, to be sure, don't get me wrong, but those types of mistakes are very, well, they're rare to see at this level of competition.
I'll be honest, I think the only reason that was as close as it was there, Marv, was because of that mistake from Mion halfway through that first lap there. It did bring Jaeger to a whisker of a chance there, which was squandered. All of those, mistakes when trying to turn in, the nose clips against the wall, losing him, a lot of that precious momentum here in Asphalt, you just can't afford to do that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every little thing counts. Every kilometer per hour you lose it's going to create a butterfly effect, right? So you start making mistakes at the beginning of the race, you're going to see those consequences all the way at the end of the race, and that's something we were seeing with Jägermeister. But yeah, if Mion didn't wreck that second time around there, I feel like the race would have been way less close than it actually was. But yeah, as you said, the composure is being lost there from Jägermeister. Can he pick himself up from his bootstraps and make sure that Mion doesn't take a sweep? Are we going to see a reverse sweep best of 5? I don't know. I hope so. Well, it wouldn't be a reverse sweep because he didn't get 3 yet, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Either way, this next race is going to determine whether or not Jägermeister has a chance of winning.
2-0 lead so far for Mion in this final, and it's all on Jägermeister now. It has to be flawless performances as we do our final round here at Buenos Aires before moving on to our next track in Rome. And it's a big start for Jägermeister, trying to pull out all the stops there as Mion goes deep into the corner there. That hands the lead to Jägermeister, so it's advantage to Jägermeister right now. What can Mion do to try and undo the damage there? But again, you see clipping off the walls here to lose some of that momentum, and the Mion just seems to be a much tidier line here.
Yeah, Mion is hungry for that lead. Jägermeister really has to maintain that composure and make sure that he doesn't give an inch to Mion to take advantage of, and that's exactly what's happening. Mion taking very nice inside line, but Jägermeister gets Shockwave earlier, and he smacks into the side of a beautiful tree. Absolutely incredible by Mion, making sure that he takes advantage, doesn't wreck, and make sure that on lap 2 he is ahead of Jägermeister. But what an unfortunate mistake by Jägermeister. We both thought that this race was going to be different. We thought Jägermeister was going to, sure that he can reverse what happened last time around, but another uncharacteristic mistake, making sure that he clips that tree there, and Mion, as a result, is now super far ahead.
Yeah, Jägermeister, I mean, you're just seeing desperation now. The 360s coming off, and of course, when you've not got the speed to begin with, when you try and pull these 360s, it just loses you so much speed. Again, racketing that car off of a wall here, right in the wall. And I'm going to have to say, I don't normally say it, GG on this race, because it is already purely in Mion's favour. There it is, confirmation across the line. And Jägermeister, 3-0 down. Going to be going to match point here, Marv. This is just so difficult to watch because, again, what do you say to it? The frustration is so obvious, and again, it's so difficult to keep your composure at this state.
So if I say a reverse 5 best of sweep won't happen, does that mean now it will happen?
That is optimism at its finest, Marv. I believe in dreams. I am a dreamer myself, but I mean, that's going to be some. Let's play devil's advocate, right? What does Jägermeister need to do to make that happen? Then, what does he need to pull out of the bag? What can he do in this 4th round?
Oh, we've seen that pure racing skill isn't going to cut it, unfortunately. Both of these players are very neck and neck, but we've seen a couple of those mistakes come out on Buenos Aires now, and these tracks are very different from each other. So it could be that Jägermeister isn't very comfortable on Buenos Aires. That could be a big factor, but I think, in my opinion, Jägermeister just has to pull out some amazing aggression like he isn't really used to. Again, we've described Jägermeister's playstyle as a bit more risk-free, but very precise, extremely accurate. Not making too many mistakes, and these mistakes that he's been making are very uncharacteristic. So, maybe you can't correct for that right now this far into the tournament. Maybe you have to play the other foot. Maybe you have to go aggressive. Maybe go for an early knockdown. Maybe go for some sort of aggressive play like that. I think Jägermeister's going to have to decide before this next race.
Yeah, as we said, we're off to Rome for the Tiber stream. That's going to be the layout that we're going on to for this potentially final round here. And again, a map that we saw, a different variation from the map that we saw early on here. But for me, this one even more leans into Mion's driving style.
Yeah, I would say something pretty similar as well. That calculated but yet not super risk-taking playstyle that Jägermeister is known for is not going to give him a very big advantage on this track. As we mentioned earlier, Rome has a lot of opportunities for jumps, lots of airspeed tricks, and so these players really have to take advantage of that. And Mion, because he's more willing to go for it, I feel like that's going to give him the slight edge here as we battle it out here on Rome. Both of them going for some insane barrel rolls here, and unfortunately, it feels like Jägermeister.
I think Jaeger just disappeared. He pieced out and decided that his planet needed him at this point. So a little bit of a reprieve there, I think, there for Jaeger, because it did look like he was going to get off to a decent start there, but. that adds, for me, that would add an extra bit of pressure as well when you've got that kind of false start to things and you've got to rejig and you've got to rethink and get yourself in. How do you think the drivers would handle that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, on the other hand, though, we also have Mion, who, in my opinion, that start was perfect. Getting a double barrel roll off the side of that ramp, that forced barrel roll is a huge advantage because it doesn't slow you down as a result of double tapping the brake to do a 360. And it's a pretty difficult maneuver to do. So now he's feeling like, hey, I pulled off this maneuver and now we have to restart the race. Is he gonna be able to get through that maneuver yet again? And this time around, he is going to have another car on the track as well, hopefully next time. So, yeah, I mean, that's a difficult decision to make. Probably feeling a little bit annoyed. Nonetheless, I think that Mion is still going to be brimming with confidence after what was pretty much a sweep on Buenos Aires. I mean, some of those, I think 1 or 2 races were close, but that was as a result of, as you said, Mion wrecking halfway through the race. But we just saw that Jägermeister was bumping into those walls a lot. So I feel like Mion is still going to be confident coming into this next race.
A huge shout out and a thank you as always to our commercial partners over at Bridgestone Tyres. These Lamborghini Revuelto cars are of course running on virtual Bridgestone tyres, and of course to Gameloft as well as to Lamborghini itself, who are introducing these prizes. Winner in all of the platforms gets €900 voucher for the Lamborghini online store. Second place gets a €550 voucher for the online store, and €350 voucher going to third place in each of the platforms. So again, a lot to play for, but realistically, I think here, Marv, it's all about those bragging rights, is it? Because you get to hold that over the other players for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, that's something we certainly see on iOS, especially with Future Flash, making sure that he stays the king, as always, of those iOS matchups there. But Android, you got a little bit more competition. These players really battle it out a lot here, make sure they swap places. But we're going to get back into the swing of things here on Rome in proper. Jägermeister making an early lead there. Is he going to go for the risky barrel roll? He's not. They're both actually going to go for the safer route. Mion's going ever so slightly above. And unfortunately, he's going to clip the top of that roof there on the bridge. That's going to leave him so far behind Jägermeister at this point.
Well, we asked literally 5 minutes ago, what did Jägermeister have to do to make this reverse sweep happen? I guess this would be part one of it, is being able to get off to a cracking start. And listen, you said it, maybe Buenos Aires just isn't the track for Jägermeister, but certainly Rome seems to be a little bit better right now, because it's a stunning lead that Jägermeister has over Mion, but it is starting to come down very slightly as Mion gets that shockwave over the ramp here at Rome. That was quite poetic there, down into the sewers, down into the waterways, and again that gap's starting to come down very, very slightly indeed. Mion trying to barrel roll off of that ramp here, and I think Jägermeister pulled out an absolute blinder here, doing everything that he possibly can.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. I think at the beginning here, he may have forced Mion to go a bit above and beyond where he should have. That caused him to hit the bridge and unfortunately lose a lot of speed. And I want to reiterate, what we saw on Buenos Aires was very out of character for Jägermeister. I wasn't expecting those mistakes. I wasn't expecting Mion to take such a clean victory that many times against Jägermeister. So I think, as you mentioned, it could just be that Jägermeister wasn't having a nice day on Buenos Aires there. And we are seeing now his skill come out in spades on Rome, one of the older tracks in Asphalt 9, so something where these players have a lot of experience on, can really stretch their legs as well. And Mion actually wrecking far behind Jägermeister. And I want to say the words I was about to say about, maybe winning a bunch of matches in a row in a certain format in esports, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to reverse jinx it. But Jägermeister is definitely going to take this section here on Rome and is now going to make it 3-1, making it competitive here in the grand finals.
Now, you're going to have to explain something to me again as somebody brand new to the ecosystem here at Asphalt 9. Those little emojis that come up on the left-hand side there. I'm presuming that's a version of in-game chat for the drivers there. And it's great to see a little bit of banter between them here in this final.
Oh, that's something you love to see. There was a couple of tournaments where the banter between players during the race was off the charts, and the chat went crazy for that. So you love to see. And like I said, the Asphalt community is also one big family. So when you see the banter and the BM and the emojis and whatnot, you know it's good sportsmanship. It's the players communicating to each other. So you love to see the emojis coming out. Sometimes there's some funny ones that players use as well. But GG's to this race. But we've seen Jägermeister take a race off of Mion. Not gonna say, not gonna mention the whole format thing and the, don't want to double jinx it, but go to Rome yet again. Is Jägermeister going to keep his skill up? Is Mion going to go for a risky maneuver? Again, we saw in that false start there that Mion managed to do that forced barrel roll at the beginning. I feel like now he feels like he's going to have to do risk maneuvers like that in order to take the lead.
Marv, you might not be wanting to commit, but chat, we need to know what you think. Are we going to see Jägermeister on the dream? Is the dream alive? Is the comeback real? Is this what we're about to see? 3-1 is the lead that we have just now. And again, all the signs are for Mion just moments away from taking the finals here. But Jägermeister want to hold on to this. And can we see in Rome the dying embers of a comeback? Here we go then. Mion on the left-hand side. Jägermeister onto the inside here into the turn. It looks like Mion's got the early lead. A little bit of a clip of the car there. And again, a little bit of a bump here. Some early contact for the two of them. Mion learning his lesson. And Jägermeister having to absolutely fire that car into oblivion. This is gloves off stuff right now, Mark.
Amazing cornering by both of these players. They are literally neck and neck right now, right behind one another in a single file line. Jägermeister opting to go for the left side, clipping the side of that building. That means he's not going to get the nitro for that barrel roll. Mion doing a nice floaty drift there to make sure he maintains his speed during this couple of corners here. And that's going to extend the lead actually there. I wasn't expecting that much of a lead from Mion as a result of that, but he maintained that speed very well. And Jägermeister missing those that orange nitro bottle. That means his nitro management isn't going to be as good coming into this last section, which is all across rough terrain. You really want as much nitro as possible, using perfect nitro to mitigate that speed loss as a result of going on rough terrain, and Mion had that in spades. We can see that coming on to this second lap. Mion is going to maintain that lead, sending that pickup truck flying. Jägermeister trying to go for that clip, but unfortunately he won't do it. No barrel roll, but luckily he won't wreck as well. So it's still possible for a comeback, but I would say that now that the risky maneuvers are over, it looks like Mion is going to have a, well, I'm not going to say guaranteed victory, but he has a big chance of taking this track.
Jägermeister just millimetres from disaster there in the bridge, but you're absolutely spot on. I think Mion in the commanding seat now in this, what is potentially the final round of this finals here for Android. Mion versus Jägermeister. It was everything to do for Jägermeister. We've only got 19% of the final map left to go, and it's all on Mion right now. Look at that gap, that's well over a second right now, and Mion in a very, very commanding position as we ride the final couple of corners, but it's surely going to be 4-1 in the way of Mion. Just across the line just now, and there we go. Mion takes the win for Android. It's a beautiful, beautiful performance. Jägermeister just not able to keep the dream alive, and it's congratulations to our winner for Android then. And you've got to say, very well deserved. A little bit of a scare towards the end there, but yeah, Mion doing everything he needed to do.
Jägermeister gave us a bit of hope at the end, but it looked like Mion just had the skill ready, was ready to take down Jägermeister. Big congrats to Mion, commiserations to Jägermeister. What an incredible best of 5 there. Lots of interesting stuff on Buenos Aires and Rome, but big congrats to Mion.
So it's safe to say that Jägermeister just not a fan of that Buenos Aires track. That seemed to do all of the damage there. 2 rounds there. Mion having that 1 round up for being undefeated in the group bracket stages there. And that is all she wrote on that one. So there you go. Confirmation. Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge champion for Android. Mion for 2023. And yeah, that is going to be one for the books for sure, coming so very close last year, and Mion doing very, very well in that one. So, after that now, we have to turn our attention in a couple of minutes' time because we're away to do it all over again, ladies and gentlemen, as we head over to Windows and Xbox. It's congratulations to be on for the Android. We're away to take a very short break. You guys get to take a very short break for your coffee and your popcorn, and we'll see you back in 5 minutes' time. Well, a very warm welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the grand finals of the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge, and what an absolute treat we've had so far today. My name is David Christie. Joining me in the commentary booth is the man, the myth, the legend, the Asphalt 9 expert himself, Marv. Marv, we honestly could not have asked for anything better. We've had the iOS finals, we've had the Android, but arguably this is where the pot is going to boil over on this one. So many really, really good ingredients in this Windows/Xbox final.
All right, and here we go. We're going right into the race, ladies and gentlemen. Knight versus Afik. And yeah, apologies for the introduction, going right into the race. But hey, you know, it's Asphalt 9 action. Who wouldn't want anything else? Now, something interesting about this race is Knight and Afik are actually very good friends, and Afik is actually the mentor and inspiration for Knight. So it's going to be Padawan versus Jedi here in Rome, and it looks like Knight is really overtaking Afik, going miles above on the barrel roll here on Rome. What an incredible start to this race.
Oh my lord, this is completely different tempo right now here as we go into the Windows and Xbox version on it right now. And already the emojis getting spammed out right now. Knight well and truly ahead of Afik, and this is, as you say, Master versus the Apprentice, but it looks like Apprentice has got the upper hand at the moment. Afik taking the inside line. Contact of Knight into the wall. Afik showing exactly how it's done as we're barely halfway into this first race there. A little bit of collision there, and well, there's going to be some head scratching, I think, from Knight on that one, because that was just left to go as we go into lap 2, and absolutely nothing between these two. And again, the contact there from behind from Knight. Mark, this is going to spill over very, very quickly indeed.
Man, class is in session, and Afik is not here to only play. He's here to win. This race is still incredibly close, so don't worry. Knight is right behind Afik, but that was an intense fight between the two. Some bumping, some action, no knockdowns, thankfully, so both were still in contention, but Knight is yipping at the heels of Afik ever so slightly, wanting something, anything, any opportunity to overtake, and Afik just isn't giving it to him. Knight is struggling to make sure that he can maintain composure going over rough terrain. Afik ever so slightly increasing the lead here as we head into the final section of our second lap.
Again, you can see these wall grinds and these wall bumps. These are the things that cost all the momentum. But look at the momentum now. The Knight has got the top speed. Starts to catch up onto the back there of Afik. And it's not quite enough just now, as we've just got to go over there. You see the emotes get spammed left, right, centre. They know it's done. I love that. I love the fact that banter midway through the race there. But that could have went either way there. That was an awesome, awesome race. And again, the aggression on a completely different level there.
Yeah, great race from both of these players. I think this is probably the closest race we've had so far. But yeah, as I said, a couple players throughout Asphalt 9 like to use the emojis mid-game. Afik is definitely one of them. He loves to use the emojis mid-game in the middle of the tournament and always brings a smile to my face. But props tonight. Again, this isn't over. It's going to be a best of 3. And is the Master going to continue to take Knight to school, or is Knight going to show what he has learned recently? We're going to have to wait and find out in this second race. But it was very clean and composed from both these racers up until that point where they clashed and Afik got ahead.
What I loved as well is that there was no point, unlike some of the previous races that we saw, say, in Android, where one driver just ran away with it. You come into the second race now and you're like, yeah, anything really could happen here. And I get the feeling that Knight is going to have learned a little bit from Afik in that first race there. Maybe a little bit of the strategy, given that we're back on the same track here.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Knight is going to try to pull anything very, very aggressive, because we didn't see necessarily any crazy aggression. We just saw two players try to fight for the line that they wanted to take. No intentional 360s, no intentional blocking. In fact, that point where the contact happened was, it seemed like two players, they were each trying to go a slightly different route during that little I guess the little corner there. And here we can see the bracket as well, just to give you guys some context as to where we are. We are in that first batch there on the upper bracket between Knight and Afik, and we're going to continue that matchup here on Rome a second time around. We'll see if Knight can take the lead again.
Oh, and again, Afik just inching that nose out in front. You can see Knight just behind there, 360 over the jump there. A little bit of a mistake there from Afik. That allows Knight to get on the inside line here. The two of them going to be landed together. Afik, though, getting a little bit of a gap there. And Knight trying to undo some of that damage early on. It's all or nothing right now because remember, it's a best of 3 in this opening matches. So you're going to have to pull the plug on this one. Otherwise, it's going to be game over at an early stage for Knight there. Gets the run down, but again, look at how much more air that Afik is able to get here. And again, the two of them, nose to tail, you just have no idea where this is going to go right now.
Even though Afik got more airtime, he was so high up in the air that when he landed, he lost a lot of speed. This caused Knight to catch up ever so slightly, so therefore the gap was closed a bit. Afik messing up that just a bit, touching the wall, and Knight is going to pull out a lead, smashing the traffic car, and yeah, they're both posting emojis. They both know what happened. Knight is going to look the better of this situation as he pulls out the lead coming into the second lap, but just as last time, they both collided in the same location, but it is not done and dusted yet. The lead is still close. If he's doing a weird 360 there, not sure how much time that is going to cost him, but he's going to floaty drift into this corner here. He's going to catch up ever so slightly. This is still a close race. Knight really has to maintain composure, make sure he doesn't mess up anything like that. Afik, oh man, he's got to be sweating a bit after that contact.
Yeah, he knows this is really difficult right now. Again, I'm not sure why he took that 360 there. It did seem to slow him down a ridiculous amount there. It's not something that I would have taken, but then for the record, I'd never ever be racing at this level. So that's a bit of an irrelevant comment there. But as we see, Knight already well out in front here, on the way to making it 1-1 just now, and this is proper battle going on between Master and Apprentice right now. Afik on the way to losing out on this one. I think he's already waving the white flag. He knows this goose is cooked on this one. 5% of the lap to go, just a couple of corners, and that is going to be, yeah, there you go, confirmation that is going to be a win for Knight. And it's almost like these emojis are able to tell a story in themselves right now.
Yeah, they're writing poetry as they drive cars at over 200 miles an hour in the air. One amazing sight. Great job by Knight to recover race here on the second time around on Rome, making sure that he can snatch a victory from Afik. But again, guys, don't worry, not all hope is lost. There is a lower bracket for whichever player loses this best of 3, and honestly, I don't know who I could really predict for this third track here. I'm gonna have to go with Afik just because of his experience. But look, Knight is absolutely no slouch. There clearly is not too big of a skill gap here, and I think it just depends on you know, how the players collide and you know what happens as a result of those collisions.
Yeah, so it's one apiece at the moment. Again, we've got Mr. Savage M and N2O to talk about very, very shortly, but all eyes just now on Afik and Knight. And again, coming into this deciding round, it's going to be important because the loser obviously goes through to that lower bracket there. And again, you know, you can see there Afik and Knight there, and Savage M and N2O away to face off as well. But ideally, you want to be in that upper bracket and just going straight through just now.
Yeah, of course. You want every advantage you can take. And as we mentioned, if you go through that upper bracket, you get a leg up in the best of 7, and every player is going to try and fight for that. So you kind of want to balance the anxiety between, you know, trying to get to those grand finals, but also make sure you don't run out of steam because you do have that lower bracket in case you lose. But here again on Rome, oh, almost driving straight into the river there. Afik managing to recover it. Both doing 360s on the corner there, doing some nice floaty drifts. Afik going very high up, both of them covering the building, making sure not to wreck. This gap is pretty close, but Afik has managed to grab himself an early lead.
He certainly has, and Knight desperately trying to get that lead back there. Afik touching the wall on the inside, losing a little bit of momentum here. That means it's going to be neck and neck, but Afik just taking the boost early on here as Knight sends it doing a loop-to-loop and also a couple of 360s in there as well, bouncing in with a Nitro, decided to get a Shockwave in there as well, and this Nitro management is absolutely absurd at this level from these two. Shockwave, cancelling it, using normal Nitro as well, and I mean, this is, you cannot take your eyes off of this right now as well. Pinpoint accuracy from these two, and you get the feeling that if anyone blinks, that's what's going to decide this race here.
It's like watching a dancer right in the middle of a performance, absolutely pinpoint and precise movement coming out from both players. It's just that, I guess, in this opportunity, Afik slightly pulled ahead of Knight with ever so slight better Nitro management and, of course, airtime there. But over on the inside line, Knight actually gets knocked down. Or, I'm sorry, Afik gets knocked down by Knight. This is a huge upset. Afik is going to be miles behind Knight now. This has taken a turn.
Well, I think the gloves are well and truly off here. That was a murder-death kill on a fake from Knight there. The rage is going to be absolutely real because, of course, this was the knockout round for this upper bracket here. A fake going to be relegated as it stands down to that lower bracket. And that means that Knight is going to go straight through to the semi-finals then. And what a turn up for the books. We talked about the Master and the Apprentice, and it looks like, if I'm right in saying, the Apprentice has well and truly schooled the Master on this one. Just a couple of corners left to go. Knight in commanding position here after that brutal takedown. And it's going to be a bloodied Afik that comes across the line in second place. And I get the feeling there's most definitely, Marv, going to be some afters and some comments on that one. Good friends, you said coming into it. I'm not so sure how that friendship's going to be after that knockdown.
Yeah, it's tough to laugh something like that off. You can't really brush it off. But I know Afik, and I'm sure he is itching at the opportunity to come back in that lower bracket. So great job by Knight to continue in that upper bracket. And gonna be honest, I would consider that an upset victory as well. So great job by Knight. Props to Afik for making it very competitive as well. But that knockdown in the third track definitely secured it for Knight in that race there. And now I'm curious to go on to this next matchup soon because N2O is a very amazing player, has a lot of experience, especially in these types of tournaments. And so I'm looking at N2O as sort of the favorite coming into this next match shortly.
Yep, of course, as you said, we're turning our attention to Mr. Savage M and N2O. N2O, as you said, they're reigning champion from last time out, won clean sweep all of their matches and won 4-1 in the previous finals there. But there's confirmation there that Knight moves on to the semi-finals in that upper bracket. Afik getting dumped down into that lower bracket and is going to have to face another match to potentially get into the final. So N2O obviously coming in as strong favourite, but let's talk a little bit about Mr. Savage M then and what they can do to come in as potentially the underdog here.
So N2O, especially on Osaka here, as this is going to be the track of choice for this next match, is a great combination because his play style is very technical, very calm, composed. He himself is extremely calm and composed. Up on stage at a LAN event recently, he didn't flinch at all. So this guy is extremely good at maintaining composure, having a great attitude towards the game as well, and never wavering, never faltering. So in my opinion, Mr. Savage is going to have to pull out a lot of aggression here if he wants to take it across from N2O. Yank that victory out of the clutches of N2O. I'm not going to say it's done and dusted yet, as you see N2O take an early lead here on Osaka, try to shove him out of the way, but Mr. Savage on the wrong side of that encounter. Oh no, I feel like, again, N2O was just calm throughout that whole thing. He was taking his line, he didn't want to force anything, and Mr. Savage just tried to shove his way through, and it didn't work out for him.
I honestly thought that was going to go the other way, the two of them into contact. I thought Savage was going to push N2O into the wall. It worked out the other way. Savage getting absolutely destroyed in that altercation there. N2O off that handsome early lead right now into the shockwave again. Beautiful on the nitro displacement there, just managing it absolutely perfection there. 20% into this race, and again, N2O kind of absolutely unassailable at this point here. You get the feeling that it's going to be a miracle that's going to keep Mr. Savage M back into this one. A little bit of a rip onto the wall there from Mr. Savage M, but I mean, to be fair, other than that, Savage is in everything that's needed right now. It's just a shame that we're kind of robbed of that early race.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that we saw that. There is another route that you can take in case that section is blocked, and it really doesn't lose you that much time. So, you know, honestly, look, it was a split-second decision. These players are needing to make those decisions every, you know, couple of frames here. Where do you place your car? How do you approach the fact that there is another car on the track? As we mentioned loads of times before, these players qualify only through time trials, so not really used to having another player on the track as well. But that split-second decision to try and shove N2O out of the way to get through that garage section there just wasn't quite worth it for Mr. Savage. It didn't work out very well. But N2O doing a great job maintaining composure, as I mentioned. He's probably not even thinking much about the fact that he has such a massive lead, and therefore he's not going to lose it at all as he crosses the finish line on our first matchup here between N2O and Mr. Savage.
Exhibition stuff there from N2O, the aggression falling against Mr. Savage M in the first of this best of three. And I'll tell you what, I don't know what is more aggressive at the moment, N2O or our YouTube chat right now, fighting for those codes that are going out just now. They are baying for blood left, right and centre, but N2O is the focus of us just now, taking that first round. How important do you think that's going to be? Because again, all he has to do now is essentially take this second round, and that's it.
I mean, from what I've seen N2O in his playstyle, he's probably just going to do the exact same thing as he did in that first track, and just maintain his line, not budge. And, you know, he's going to be a stone in the way of Mr. Savage. Mr. Savage is going to basically act as Sisyphus here, try to push that stone out of the way infinitely, because N2O isn't going to budge. You know, Mr. Savage really has to up that aggression, but make sure he does it in the right location, because as we saw in that previous track, if you try and shove someone out of the way next to a wall, you might go right into that wall face first. So, you know, I'm hoping that we see maybe a bit of an ease on the aggression from Mr. Savage, at least in the beginning. You really want to get your bearings right as soon as a race starts. You don't want to immediately start to try any fights, any aggression, because, well, as we saw, it doesn't really work out sometimes.
Yeah, if he needs any help on faceplant into the wall, I'm certainly available to give him some tips on that. That certainly seems to be a recurring theme on my early Asphalt 9 career. Talking of which, let's head back into race number 2 then. Best of 3, Mr. Savage against N2O. Left-hand side for Mr. Savage N takes a early lead then. But again, you get the feeling it's a question of what is N2O got in the back burner for this one, and N2O just you get that feeling that poised like a sniper waiting to take out his prey right now. Savage M though doing what's needed to try and recover this race just now.
A great job getting that early lead from Mr. Savage M, but this hairpin corner is going to decide a lot of it. N2O goes for a bit of an inside. They're both going to do almost the exact same thing, mirror image of each other. They're both going to keep their spots here on the track. Great job by both of these players not flustering that corner. N2O going over that rough terrain a bit, losing some speed as Mr. Savage does gain a bit of time there, but it's slowly closing as a result of a bit of a tighter corner here onto that apex. N2O both acting like helicopters, and that helicopter is going to take out Mr. Savage, snatching right on top. And there we go, N2O. I told you he wasn't going to fault his line. He wasn't going to move. He wasn't going to budge. And Mr. Savage did not get out of the way. And there we go, N2O knocking down Mr. Savage at the end of that first lap. And now there is a sizable gap between these players.
Chat, can we get one of you out there to give some hugs and cuddles for Mr. Savage M, because that was absolutely disgusting from N2O. We had the comment saying that the takedown was a feature of the game, so why not use it? But not like this. No, I mean that was literal domination there from N2O to jump on top of the car. I mean, I have nothing else to add to that conversation there, but it does look like it's going to be curtains at this early stage of the championship. It's certainly for the upper bracket for Mr. Savage M. It's going to be demotion down to that lower bracket, and well, yeah. How do you come back from something like that?
I honestly, I don't know if you can. I mean, as we see, they're both the players eventually finishing the race. N2O coming in first, securing his place into that upper bracket, moving on. But you know, I think you have to keep that in mind when you race against N2O, is that this guy's not going to move for me. You know, I have to do some sort of wizard magic to try and get around him. And that's exactly what happened. It was interesting because usually when you see a player fall behind, you might see a bit of flustering. You might see a lot of attempts to really try and get that lead back. But with N2O, he just continued as normal. He basically ignored Mr. Savage, played the race perfectly, and as a result, he is now, as you can see, facing that upper bracket match against Knight, Mr. Savage, and Afik going down to that lower bracket first match there. I don't know how you can really recover from that. That is a very humiliating way to go out, for sure.
That's like in an FPS when you get teabagged after you get shot. That's exactly what that is in Asphalt. That's the same level of humiliation there. And again, what annoys or what is frustrating for me is Mr. Savage M was by no means a poor driver there, was not slow in any way. It was just the way that the cookie crumbled on that one. And that sets us off for our next match now against Afik here for that lower bracket here. That is going to be a very, very interesting one because the pair of them not afraid to take their chances here. And I think this is going to get a little bit sparky, a little bit fighty here.
Yeah, Mr. Savage has got to be mad at what happened. Got to be fierce. Gonna want to fight to get through that lower bracket. Lower bracket matches are never easy, man. There's some of the toughest ones out there. And here we go on Pyro, Afik versus Mr. Savage here. And yeah, I'm still thinking about that knockdown, man. That's traumatizing.
Well, let's see what we can get out of this one as Afik off to an early lead here in Cairo then. Again, momentum's such a crucial part here in this track here. Full of long, high-speed jumps here. And again, Mr. Savage doing a great job to close that gap down, taking the inside line, trying to get a little bit of the gap down there to break through the wall to go through the underground section. And again, it's nose to tail right now. It's all about these jumps here. It's all about boost management. It's all about getting the inside line here.
Yeah, and it's also about these nitro tricks as well. We've seen in previous games. Ooh, hitting the traffic car. That's going to slow down Afik ever so slightly. Are they going to go for the risky maneuver? No, they won't. I would say that's a good choice considering they're both pretty close to each other. There's no real reason to go for any huge risk as both of them go on to this 360 corner here at the end of the first lap. But we didn't see a lot of risks being taken by these players here, unlike what we've seen with Android and iOS, especially on Cairo. They were taking advantage of those railings, making sure that their tires never hit the ground. Are they going to go for the airtime here? Yes, they will. Afik doing a perfect job of maximizing airtime right alongside Savage, hitting the corner there a bit, needing to drip to correct himself right before that jump. That is going to extend the lead that Afik has ever so slightly, but it's not too far away to call a victory just yet, I would say.
What I've noticed is neither of these drivers, compared to the iOS and Android, particularly taking advantage of nitro braking in any great shapes whatsoever. Certainly from these two, haven't noticed it from any of the previous matches as well in the Windows and Xbox. And I wonder, you know, maybe that's just a different way of driving here.
Yeah, every once in a while you're just not on the ground for enough time to really need to do a lot of nitro braking, so it feels like that's what's going on here. But in this section you'll see here both of them are going to be using the brake nitro trick to make sure that they don't fall down to the ground speed a lot, but it does come down to the track and the play style as well. You know, you conserve nitro by not doing the brake nitro trick a lot, just maintaining your top speed. Pulling out some more emojis there, wondering what's going to happen. But yeah, that is a little bit of a BM coming out here, and actually, yeah, not really noticing, but he's going to take this track pretty handedly there. Almost a full second of a lead for Afik.
I think he was styling it out towards the end there. That was a confused look as to where is my competition here, and then doing the 360 over across the line. Exactly. And mind games like this in the lower bracket, so important, given that both of these drivers, by definition, have lost. And any sort of mind games you can play to get that done is exactly the order of the day. But 1-0 to Afik in this best of three as we're going to go again to Cairo. All question marks then on Mr. Savage M, and again recovering this drive. Surely can't do another 2-0.
You know, the skill advantage is one thing, that difference, but the other thing is that psychological torment, that difference maker that you can perform by torturing your opponents a little bit with some BM and emojis. And Afik is pulling that out in spades. Is not dropping a beat with those emojis. You know, on LAN, it's very easy to get in someone else's head. They're right there. You can talk with them. You can throw signs at them or whatever you want to do. Here in Asphalt 9, though, they do have the emojis during the race. You know, they could be catapulting their cars well over 200 miles an hour doing barrel rolls while also pulling out funny faces for the other driver to see in clear daylight. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know if that's going to make Mr. Savage either maybe just more angry or maybe just more fierce to get back at Afik for what happened during that first race. But, you know, needless to say, it was a pretty clean race from both drivers. I'm hoping to see more risk-taking, though, in the second time around. Like I mentioned during that previous track, a lot of the Android and iOS players went for a lot of those airspeed tricks, but we didn't see that all too much here.
Yeah, we saw though Mr. Savage going for that shockwave nice and early on there and bolting Afik out of the way there. So that was a great start from Savage there, getting everything that he needed to do and up to a really, really good start here. We could see this lower bracket being evened up at an early stage. Afik bumping off of the oncoming traffic there and really start to lose out.
Yeah, he's losing a lot of speed there, which is curious. Not quite a mistake you often see, especially with Afik. He's a very precise driver. But usually, and that's something I want to point out, is if you hit the traffic car instead of go right next to it, you actually do get a bit more nitro, as you could see there. Mr. Savage opting to hit the traffic car. You do get a bit more nitro. You just want to make sure that you don't hit the car enough to actually lose speed. Unfortunately, that's what happened when Afik hit that car. So now he's on the back foot here in second place. But we still have a full lap to go. Afik could do something risky, could do something crazy. Look, in the back of my mind, I am really hoping that one of these players goes for that insane risky maneuver towards the second half of this second lap here. But I don't know. It would be super risky. It's going to be super hard to pull off. The gap though isn't that massive, but it would make the difference for Afik to take the victory.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I don't think we're going to see that again. That was a once-in-a-lifetime shot to see that happen. And it was on this course, of course, that we saw that there. But Mr. Savage doing everything that's needed right now, 70% into this race of the lower bracket finals here, and surely going to make it 1-1, you've got to think. But saying that, look at the pace that Afik has got going on. That gap was brought down from 3 seconds to about 1.2 right now, and Afik on an absolute mission. This is going to completely rattle Mr. Savage, you'd think.
Yeah, he is shattering the ghosts of other players on this track, but it's just not quite enough. Oh, I think Afik tried to go for it. He heard me talking and he wanted to go for it, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him. That is going to decide this track here, but he's not out of it just yet. He does have that point advantage, so this is going to be tied up now as a result of Mr. Savage crossing the finish line after a couple of bumps there. Nice try by Afik, but it just unfortunately didn't work out this time around. It is one of the hardest maneuvers to pull off, and sometimes you do need a little bit of luck on your side as he passes the finish line in second place.
Yeah, a wing and a prayer not on the side of Afik for that one. You know, as you said, a valiant attempt for doing that. And quite honestly, that's literally the only thing that he had in his pocket going into to try and take that second round here. Nothing to lose, essentially, other than tying things up. It was already looking firmly in the pocket of Mr. Savage M. But we now turn our attention because it's the third round. It's the deciding round in this this matchup here between, you know, Afik and Mr. Savage M. And the question is now, who is going to come out on top here of this lower bracket this lower bracket, because the winner of this then goes on through to the final here. So sorry, on to the lower bracket semi-final. And again, for me, I think that's going to leave them in a very dangerous position, because I don't fancy either of their chances against Knight or N2O.
Yeah, it's look, the lower bracket is always a daunting challenge, especially as soon as you're at that start. But once you start to get into the zone, maybe things can change. But trading blows here on the victory, none of these players are going to have too much momentum. I mean, you could say that Mr. Savage now has a bit of momentum coming into this third track, so we'll see if he takes advantage of it on Cairo yet again. But I am curious to see. I think a rematch between Knight and Afik would be very interesting to watch because, again, as we mentioned, that dynamic between, apprentice and master could come back, and maybe Afik could swing things the other way during another matchup. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We still don't have the decider of this first lower bracket match, but it is a daunting thing to see someone try to go through the entire lower bracket as we see the final race in this best of 3 between Mr. Savagem and Afik. Who is going to make it? Looks like Mr. Savage is trying to outtake on the outside, but Afik getting some airtime. Is that going to help him out just a little bit? They're now even out pretty close here in the first section of Cairo. They're going to have to really take some risks, try and go for those rail grindings here, but they're both not. They're actually going to drive right over it. And Afik and Savage both working really close to each other, very similar lines.
Yeah, Savage trying to tail grind against that car. That's what gets him enough to get him his shockwave right at the start there. That's what gets him out in front here. As you see the two of them nose to tail there. Afik kind of held up a little bit by Mr. Savagem here, but gets the pace on the second part of this opening lap here. And again, onto that oncoming traffic. That's what gets that nitro filled up nice and quickly. But look at the pace from Afik here onto the back of Savagem. Again, way too close to call this early on here, and you get the feeling it's all or nothing. That is what is going to make or break this race here as Afik tries to set up the inside. It's going to be a shockwave from Mr. Savagem here. Afik uses his shockwave, but clips off the wall, and Savagem is going to have the run on the inside lines. We cut into lap number 2.
Oh man, that I think is going to be the mistake that cost him this first half of the lap here. He was knocking on the door of Mr. Savage. Yoo-hoo, anybody home? Afik just about maintaining that lead, and he crushes against that van. That is going to make sure that he loses that lead. That was back and forth pretty quickly. Mr. Savage making sure that Afik doesn't have any room to breathe, and he's going to have to recover once more. Again, Afik needs to make sure that he can find the perfect opportunity to overtake yet again.
That was some really tailored aggression there from Mr. Savagem there, running Afik into that van there. Shockwaves coming out left, right and centre as they go over the ramps, over the bridges here. And again, what does Afik left have in his locker in this final round of the lower bracket just now? It's all or nothing right now. Surely going to have to try and do that jump if they possibly can here. But again, with just a couple of corners left to go, Savagem in the control seats here. Surely this is it, all done and dusted. Mr. Savagem is going to take this one. It is. It's all done and dusted. Afik knocked out, and that is a huge turn up for the books. Congratulations to Mr. Savagem there.
I would definitely consider that to be a little bit of an upset. That last quarter lap there was super intense from Mr. Savage. Great racing by both drivers, but I think that one move there with Mr. Savage shoving Afik into that van, that definitely made it for me. That was like the turning point. I thought, there's no way that Afik is going to overtake yet again. And unfortunately, he didn't take the line that would allow him to take the risky maneuver on that second lap. So he couldn't take advantage of that. And I think that sealed the deal for Mr. Savage. They are continuing under this intense lower bracket run here. And props to Afik. Great job, great turnout in this tournament. But Knight is actually going to be continuing further on.
Yeah, that is a massive turn up for the books. That's what sent it on this downward spiral here. That early knockout from Knight, sending them down into the lower bracket, and it just wasn't to be. So we're not going to have that reunion. So as you said, Knight is going to stay on top, certainly for just now. But now we move on because obviously Knight and N2O, and this is going to be a huge matchup here. Off to the Himalayas again for the frozen route layout. And again, no idea how this one is going to go.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see a lot of those airspeed tricks that we saw earlier between Flash and I believe it was Elite Joe. But here you can see the bracket overview of what exactly is going down again.
Yeah, for sure. As you see, Knight and N2O in that top bit.
Bracket for the result of this match. But keep in mind, the result of this next upper bracket match is going to decide who gets that advantage in the grand finals. Again, if you win through the upper bracket, you get that early 1-0 start. And that's going to be super important for the grand finals especially.
Yeah, it certainly is. As you say, Knight and N2O in that top bracket then, the semi-final going through. The loser of them gets put down into that lower bracket. Here we go, straight into the action in the Himalayas then. N2O on the left-hand side, Knight on the right-hand side for just now. And you can see there Knight with the early aggression there, moving himself up ahead. And Marv, that is exactly what you want. Early aggression, taking the barrel roll, keeping that nitro nice and cool.
Oh yeah, both players not overstaying their welcome on the rail there, both making sure to take the exact amount of time they need. N2O trying to overtake on top, going for that knockdown, I think, trying to crush his opponents like he did previously. It won't work out. Knight moves out of the way just in the nick of time. They're both going to continue onto the chicane here. Is N2O going to go for the inside? He is. Knight doing a great job of blocking. They're both going to shockwave out onto the straightaway. A lot of airtime here coming up. N2O going for that, like slightly closer line, but it's on rough terrain. That means it's going to even itself out. Knight still maintaining this lead in the straightaway.
Yeah, the pair of them using the shockwaves through the tunnel here, and you get the feeling that this is absolutely no holds barred between Knight and N2O right now. Knight have the upper hand very slightly. N2O having a little bit more momentum, gets down onto the ground here. What can Knight do to hold off as we go across the line as lap 1 is completed here in this first, the best of 3 in the semi-finals, and this is absolutely huge right now for Knight. Gets the run and again has the momentum, as that's another unforced error there from N2O, rubbing the wall there with the front of that nose, getting more of the top speed back up there, but again Knight just pulling out all the stops here.
N2O tried to go for that rail grind there, but he didn't have enough speed to get into the air to go on top of that section there, so unfortunately he didn't get that. But this means that Knight is going to maintain this lead so far.
Yeah, that was a bad error from N2O, clipping the wall.
Into the straightaways. Lots of air time there, taking advantage of that top speed in the air. Both N2O and Knight doing a great job.
Yeah, you saw there N2O clipping the wall there, and that is what happened during that 360 there. It cost him all that time, and it's pretty much all she wrote with just a couple of corners left to go in the Himalayas here for the first round of the semi-final at the upper brackets here. It's going to be first blood here tonight across the line, and that is a stunning victory there. Again, a big upset against your reigning champion, and that is absolutely huge, Marv. Did not see that one coming. N2O coming in as the reigning champion there, and Knight bloodying the nose.
Yeah, massive upsets coming up from Knight. I don't think anyone was really expecting someone who, was declared as sort of the apprentice, you could say, to Afik, but come out swinging, pulling out all the stops, making sure that nobody is going to doubt him, especially after this tournament. What a great job by Knight, making sure that we all, make sure that he gains the respect of the community as well. Although I know that he has been playing for a very long time, so I'm sure all of that playtime is really paying off right now. Look, it's not done and dusted quite yet because we do have a couple more races on the Himalayas if we do go through that best of 3 if we need it. But great job by Knight. That was some clean racing.
Well, again, we've only had 2 races with Knight, but that is the first time now that we've seen N2O actually going a round down now, because N2O won his first game 2 games to 0, and Knight actually getting that first blood there. I think that is going to be a massive, massive mind melt to N2O. Kind of thinking, who is this guy?
Yeah, I mean, you might think that, but again, I go back to what I've witnessed about N2O in some of the other tournaments, where he just has no show of emotion. It's hard to tell what's going up in there, and I feel like N2O is not going to let this at all affect him. But Knight, he's really going out for this aggressive maneuver, trying to block N2O, trying to make sure that N2O doesn't get into his brain. Knight going for that barrel roll and even some more airtime. That's going to extend his lead a lot right now. Oh, N2O, he went for the dirty knockdown. Oh my gosh, he actually missed. Oh, he's going to, as a result, fall a bit behind because of that failed 360 knockdown.
Yeah, you can see the nitro brakes in full effect here, trying to manage as much of that nitro and that top speed as possible with these two, but definitely the gloves are off. You can see the intent there from N2O. He wanted to destroy Knight there. He wanted to put that car into millions and millions of pixels, but it didn't come to anything right now. This second round, potentially this final round of the semi-final, off to a blazing start, and look at the lead that Knight's starting to get here now, pulling out a 360 to top up the boost, make sure that nitro meter is as full as it possibly can be right now. But now, Marv, what can you possibly do if you're N2O right now? Knight seems to have your number in every single way of it.
Needs to hit every single trick perfectly now on the second lap. We know that there's an opportunity on the second time around after the big jump. N2O nails the first time, nails the second time. He's going to have to nail as well after the forced barrel roll. He's going to have to land onto the railing and get even more airspeed. Is he going to go for it? No.
Oh, and that's it. N2O wrecks after a failed barrel roll into the corner there. That hands Knight a ridiculous lead there. That car is absolutely done and dusted. And again, the pressure is massively onto N2O. It's not over just yet, but the writing is absolutely on the wall. This, for me, is one of the biggest upsets of the entire day. A reigning champion that was looking so dominant in that first upper bracket round there. N2O looking to go out on a 2-0 loss tonight. The student has absolutely had the number of everybody so far, and N2O obviously would go down to that lower bracket semi-final. But again, it's just not where you want to be. Knight finishes the race, takes the win, and that is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, great job by Knight. Again, you described it perfectly. Probably one of the biggest upsets we've seen tonight. Now, I would say in a normal circumstance that type of victory, that type of defeat, especially for N2O, is really going to get into your head, going to make you feel a bit uneasy going into the lower bracket. But if I know N2O, he's probably still just completely straight-faced. Nothing is going to affect him. He's going to go into that lower bracket with the exact same game plan as if he were going to go into any other race. So hopefully we'll see that type of mentality come out from N2O. But yeah, like you said, Knight going into that grand final, that's definitely an upset for the books.
N2O is about to take on Mr. Savage M for that lower bracket semi-final. But you said about the lack of emotion for N2O, and I'm going to actually bring up a point here, because let's cast our mind back to the start of that final round there for N2O, and that 360 takedown attempt that didn't happen. That was some aggression that we hadn't really seen from N2O before, and for me, that felt like a little bit of frustration starting to creep in on his part.
It definitely could be something trying to, getting a rise out of N2O that we haven't seen before. Maybe seeing an angry side to N2O that we haven't seen before as well. But yeah, it didn't really pan out correctly. And, it is tough to decide whether or not it was intentional aggression or just, hey man, I'm taking the line that I want to take, and if you get in my way, you're going to get knocked down. Kind of like what we saw earlier, but it absolutely could be intentional aggression, intentional upset about what's happening. Like, this guy is new to this type of tournament. He shouldn't even be in the conversation. Why am I on the back foot here? Let me take things into my own hands. So it's going to be interesting to see if he pulls out some more aggression here as we jump straight into Auckland here. Mr. Savage M versus N2O for that lower bracket match. Whoever loses this, unfortunately, will be out of the tournament.
I have a real pity for Mr. Savage M at the moment. My gut feeling says that he is absolutely going to get left in the dust of N2O right now. That's certainly what's happening in this first little part of the circuit just now. N2O has the bit between his teeth, and my goodness me, can you imagine if somehow, some way we still get an N2O night final? N2O absolutely with a bit between his teeth. That would be one for the ages right now. Mr. Savage doesn't have a hope really right now of holding a candle to the wind of N2O. The pace is just absolutely insane just now.
Yeah, Mr. Savage, I'm doing a great job of that rail grind, but I don't know if it is enough. Gained ever so slightly some time up against N2O, but N2O's lines are just perfect, and Mr. Savage missing that yellow nitro bottle. That's going to be very important. He could have had Shockwave there, but unfortunately not enough nitro for that. So coming up onto this hairpin corner at the end of this first lap, N2O is going to have a sizable lead up against here on Auckland, and that's going to give him a lot more confidence. Whether or not he needs it or not, that's a different conversation, but yeah, he's taken the line he needs to take, and Mr. Savage M's got to feel a bit flustered right now. He has to really make sure he does something risky in order to, because we know that N2O doesn't make that many mistakes, although I do say that after he made that mistake on Himalayas, but on this track, it's really all about precise cornering and whatnot, and N2O is great at that sort of play style.
He certainly is, and N2O just miles ahead, light years ahead of Mr. Savage M in this first round of the best of three, the lower bracket semi-finals here. This is going to decide who goes into the finals then, and it's all about N2O at the moment. And it's such a shame because Mr. Savage M really not put too much of a foot wrong. It's been a fairly decent run for Mr. Savage M, but it just shows the light years of difference right now between the likes of Knight and N2O again, as the two of them coming through the final couple of corners. Going to be round this arena section for the final time, and it's going to be the race win for N2O to cap this off, to start off this best of three in the best way possible. Absolutely destroyed his car in the process.
If you win, you know, whatever. You could do what
Send
you
it.
want after you
It's
win.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. Great racing by both of these players. Not too much of a crazy race going on. Not anything super crazy that stands out to me specifically. I think there, N2O just had a better understanding of how his car felt on the track. Had a better racing line as well. And even though we saw some successful rail grinds come out from Mr. Savage, it just wasn't enough. We did see him bump a couple of times up against the wall, and I think that lost him just that bit of time that made it so N2O could pull away with that victory. But props to both racers. Again, it's not over just yet here on Auckland, but I feel like the nerves might start to get to both of these players here in the lower bracket.
Yeah, for sure, because with N2O, I mean, that was just the thing for me is that Mr. Savage M, as I said during the race there, it didn't look like he made an obvious mistake. It just looked to be that it was consecutively over the corners, just didn't have the pace, didn't have the momentum to hold up with that car. What scares me is the fact that N2O really seemed to have the bit between his teeth, and he really wants to be in this final.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go again here, running it back on Auckland Savage, Mr. Savage M versus N2O. I feel like N2O wants to go kicking and screaming into those finals. He is not going to make sure he misses a beat. But as I say that, we do have a slight lead here for Mr. Savage M. N2O is going to have to find a way, find an opportunity or any sort of opening to overtake Mr. Savage M. We've seen, especially on this track in these tight corners, an opportunity like that. We've seen some contact, but not an overtake just yet. N2O needs to take advantage of every opportunity he gets to overtake just in that fashion.
He's really pushing everything that he possibly can, and that's a little bit of a nudge there into the back of N2O. N2O loses a little bit of time here, but you get the feeling, and Savage M bounces off the railing into the scenery, and it's goodbye Mr. Savage M, because that car is a million miles back now. N2O released off into the distance there, and I've got to be honest, I am very impressed at Mr. Savage M for that tenacity there, Mark, to really push things as much as possible. You got to take some risks.
Yeah, you absolutely have to respect the risk takes, or the risk that Mr. Savage M took. Unfortunately, not panning out quite right for him. And of course, as always, N2O cool, calm, collected as ever, barreling into the second lap with absolutely every sight on his mind to take a victory. It's very rare that we're going to see a big mistake come out from him. I don't think he's going to go for any risky maneuvers, especially now that he's confident he has this lead. But commiserations to Mr. Savage. Great job trying to pull out that risky maneuver, but unfortunately, luck just wasn't on his side this time around.
Well, here we go through the final stages of this second race, what looks to be the final race, as N2O about to solidify his position into the finals then. Mr. Savage M give it everything that he possibly could, including the kitchen sink, bouncing again off the rails, gets it onto the wall grind this time round, getting the bonus for destroying obstacles, fills up the nitrometer, but not as much as he would like to hope for. N2O coming through the final arena section for the last time then to secure his place in the finals here of this Windows and Xbox finals here, and it's a storming performance for N2O, sends that car into a cube, and Mr. Savage M can hold his head up high. A spirited display there, and that is going to be third place in the finals here. That was awesome, really enjoyed that race. Hard lines for Mr. Savage M, but in the end I think there was only one winner there.
Yeah, absolutely stellar performance from N2O, showing why he was the victory of the last tournament as well, making sure that that title isn't snatched away from him quite yet, and we are going to see that rematch between N2O and Knight in the upper bracket, and that's going to be important because, as we mentioned earlier, coming from that upper bracket, Knight now has a 1-0 automatic lead. Now, I don't know how much that's going to affect N2O's mental ability now here, because we know he's very I wouldn't say stubborn, but he has a very good head on his shoulders, and he's really good at keeping calm and composed. So, you know, I'm hoping he's sort of itching to get that victory, get that rematch against Knight here as we head into the bracket to show you guys where we've ended up. And as you can see, Knight and N2O ending up in that grand finals, Knight coming from that upper bracket.
Well, Marv, you've teased us all the way through this afternoon with your love of a comeback story. This is it right here. N2O put down to that lower bracket at the second hurdle there, then having to fight his way back to get into the final here through that second lower bracket semi-final here, has been pretty much schooled by Knight in that first race here. He has it all to do. He's shown absolute dogged determination to hold in here. I get the feeling this is going to be an absolute slobber knocker, and we're not going to have to wait long, ladies and gentlemen. Our final set of races on the day. Knight and N2O get underway in the finals, and it's just as physical as I thought it was going to be. Knight on the left-hand side, N2O gets off to an early lead on the right-hand side here, and N2O showing exactly what he thinks.
Absolutely, we're geared up for an amazing race here in Buenos Aires, and there is only one car that stands between Knight and victory, and right now it's N2O in the lead as a matter of fact, so Knight is going to have to make sure he can take advantage of any opening or opportunity he gets to take a lead. Now, we've seen a lot of variation in which route these players take at the end of this lap here on Buenos Aires. Nobody's going to crash into the tree. That's a good sign. Are they both going to go for the left side? They will. Which barrel roll are they going to take? They're going to take the one on the far corner, just the same as Future Flash. Knight overtaking, barrel rolling across over top of N2O. What an amazing overtake, but it's not over just yet. Knight knocks down N2O to secure that lead.
Absolute drama and chaos. N2O wiped out by Knight in this first lap of the first rounds of the finals. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's a best of 7. There are lots and lots of races to do. The first two here on Buenos Aires, but that is absolute domination from Knight right now. We said schooled in the first round. N2O leaving the track again. That is it. He is absolutely cooked. And that is going to be round 1 tonight. I am absolutely floored at what I just saw there. Oh my goodness me, that is a turn up for the bigs. That is a shock if ever you want to have one. N2O sends the car into a million pieces there. And Marv, your thoughts on that first race?
Man, that was quite the race here. I apologize for any silence. I just lost connection, but now I'm back. Witness that end there. That was an intense sequence of events from Knight, and you can see he is hungry for that victory. I think as soon as he realized that he has a chance against some of the big boys, the big names of the Windows bracket, he was like, I'm here. I got to take advantage of this. I got to push the pedal to the metal and give it my all 100%. And that's exactly what we saw here on Buenos Aires. No holds barred, 100% effort all the way through. And that knockdown to just secure that last bit was just the tip of the iceberg when it came to his performance.
One thing you've told me about N2O was his lack of emotion. I'm going to question that right now, because I'm going to imagine he is absolutely livid right now. Not only is that the first win, but that now is 2-0 on the scoreboard. Remember, being best of 7, first to 5 essentially on this one. Oh, sorry, first to 4, excuse me, on this one here. So we're already potentially halfway there. We are going to have to see a hell of a performance and a hell of a comeback now from N2O to even get back into this.
Yeah, he needs to gather his strength and make sure that he doesn't mess up on this next race, because that's going to be extremely important coming into this next race, which will be Buenos Aires yet again. And it's going to be important to see whether or not N2O differs in his line at all, just to make sure that he doesn't bump into Knight. But as we see already, Knight actually takes a pretty sizable lead coming onto this first couple of chicanes here. N2O on the back pedal here going into the stadium. Knight not pulling any punches whatsoever, making sure that he makes his lines clean, composed, and making sure that he doesn't bump into any of these walls. N2O clipping that wall just a bit there with the nose. It's going to lose him just a bit of time, and Knight has really extended this lead. Yeah,
it looks like some connection issues or something like that, Mar, for N2O. Uncharacteristic poor start to the second round here, and I'll be honest, I mean, it looks very difficult to see any way back for N2O after this early stage just now. Some really uncharacteristic errors right now, banging into walls left, right and centre, losing the speed, losing the momentum here. And again, if I wasn't mistaken, I would say N2O absolutely rattled right here.
Yeah, I think his attitude must be a bit broken. There's something going on, because these mistakes are very uncharacteristic. Buenos Aires is known to be a very twisty, tight track, but these players are always practicing, so it's very interesting to see. But as we mentioned earlier, there could be some connection issues with N2O because these mistakes are a bit uncharacteristic, but regardless, Knight, just making sure that he cleans up his lines, making sure that all of those apexes are cut perfectly as he is about to cross the finish line, and N2O unfortunately actually going outside of the track as well. So yeah, putting the cherry on top for Knight again.
Yeah, there we go. So Knight taking win number 3 by default then. And what is there a way back for N2O now, realistically? Because I know he's good, he's got track record, but what the hell can you do when you've got a driver like this, Knight, who's just been come out of nowhere and just absolutely dominated this?
He has to reach out into the depths of the unknown from esports and make sure that he can grasp all of his energy to make, I guess, would this be a reverse best of sweep yet? Have we gotten to 3? This would technically be if he needs to win 4 in a row. Oh boy, he's got to dig deep really for some, some strength, some courage, and of course some clean racing lines as well. But look, I think he can do it. I don't think it's out of the question just yet. Look, Knight has been very confident, amazing driving skills coming out from Knight, but I don't think N2O is completely out of this just yet.
I was about to say, Marv, you're the optimist, you're the dreamer. Do you still believe?
I do. I won't stop believing either.
I'm loving that. You heard it here first, folks. Marv still believes the dream is alive. We're just a couple of seconds away from getting the final round of this championship potentially underway. It's a 3-0 lead for Knight in this final platform. What a day we have had, though, of champions. Of course, we had the iOS Championship up earlier on. It was a congratulations to Future Flash for winning that one. Congratulations as well in the Android out to Jägermeister as well. And sorry, to Mayon for that one. And then in the Windows bracket, we are underway for what is do or die for N2O. Knight gets off to a great start again, but it's N2O smacks him into the wall, and there's the aggression that we were seeing earlier on. That's what we want to see from N2O.
Absolutely. You didn't want to see anything else. N2O needed to make sure he could grab that lead and hold onto it, but as we say that, Knight actually making sure that he closes the gap ever so slightly to come into the complicated section of Rome, which was only recently discovered to be actually a faster route than going the other way and taking advantage of that nitro bottle. But he's actually using double tap nitro instead of perfect nitro to go around that corner, which is interesting. I think he lost just a bit of speed here, but regardless of that, these players are still very close to each other. It is anyone's game at the moment. Almost went for that inside line overtake from Knight. Are there going to be any knockdowns? There's some contact here. 360 coming out from N2O to try to finish. Knight with an aggressive 360. That was really aggressive. He really wanted to knock down N2O.
Oh, we're out for blood. Both of these players don't just want to win, they want to destroy the other one right now. N2O has his ego to repair here, and Knight has absolute domination on his mind. 360s left, right and centre. He's got 3 rounds to the good right now, and N2O looking very vulnerable right now. The pair of them go across the bridge, hit off the wall. Oh my goodness me, what a move by Knight to take the lead.
Oh my gosh, what a close sequence of events. Knight knocked him down and wrecked at the same time. Oh no! N2O catapults into the lead after, I guess, what was a double knockdown coming out from N2O, or at least a wreck and then a knockdown. I was hard to even see what was going on there. There were door panels flying everywhere, but N2O came out of it on the other side of this, and this could be the start to an insane string of victories from N2O. That's got to be feeling good for N2O, but he could also just be confused and just, roll with the punches and make sure that he finishes on time here.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to cross the T's and dot the I's. N2O on the verge of holding on to this final right now. Just a little bit left to go. Surely N2O can keep himself in this one. He's light years ahead of Knight, who will be trying to figure out what on earth just happened with all that one. N2O takes the 4th round. And we move on. We finally get to leave and we head on to the next map, which is going to be Rome Tiber Stream. Wow. What the hell just happened there?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to break down. It was hard to see exactly what happened. It felt like there was a knockdown and then a wreck right after that. But whatever happened, and N2O came out of that situation ahead. And by light years, as you said. So, I mean, N2O really took advantage of that, make sure he didn't wreck on the second lap there, and made sure it's going to be 3-1. The race isn't over just yet. The battle is won, but the war is not. So we wage on, and N2O really has to gather his strength for this next race, because if that wreck didn't happen, it still would have been insanely close.
And of course, I'm saying we're moving on to Rome Tiber Stream, but we've already been to Rome Tiber Stream. I'm getting very, very much ahead of myself. In fact, no, I was right yet again. We are in the middle of Rome for this before we move on to the next one, which is going to be US Midwest, which I don't think we've seen so far. But here we go, 3-1 then tonight. N2O still in with it again. Early aggression there from N2O. We are just punching each other around here as Knight goes back to take the lead, and N2O makes an uncharacteristic mistake an early stage here. That could be absolutely huge for the championship.
Oh no, N2O had every opportunity to make sure that he didn't make a massive mistake like that. Hard to see exactly what happened, but Knight pulled off an amazing forced barrel roll at the beginning of that race. And actually, for a brief moment, he cleanly overtook N2O, but it felt like either N2O drove right into the stream or into a wall or something like that. Maybe he got a bit confused as to why Knight was ahead of him already. But that pretty much seals it for this lap. It feels like for the next minute or so, Knight is going to be pretty far ahead of N2O, and so he'll have to make a devastating mistake for any chance of N2O recovering it. And I think my hopes of any reverse sweep best of 7 is going to be crushed as Knight continues on to the second lap.
It feels like Knight absolutely showboating at this point, just taking every opportunity to get as much in terms of nitro, in terms of 360s, aerial maneuvers, flips, wall rides, you name it. It's a masterclass on the second lap here from Knight. We got a little bit of a scare with N2O getting around back here, but it does look very, very good. But never ever discount N2O. That gap still, dangerously close. All it takes is one mistake from Knight to bring this into disrepute just now, but it looks like we could be all done and dusted for the finals of the PC and Xbox rounds of this one. Knight looking very, very good for this one. Just a couple of corners to go, and we are poised to crown our PC Xbox champion, and it looks like it's going to be going the way of Knight despite N2O's best efforts here. And across the line, Knight is your PC Asphalt 9 Lamborghini Revuelto Championship winner. Wow. I have no words for that one. That one took me completely by surprise. We have to talk about how devastatingly powerful Knight was in this championship.
Wow, I mean, that was honestly the last thing I was expecting. Newcomer to the tournament format, absolutely destroying the competition. Congratulations tonight for winning the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge here on Asphalt 9 for the Windows and Xbox bracket. Amazing performance by all the drivers. Of course, commiserations to N2O for an amazing performance as well. Great run back from that lower bracket, but Knight just ever so slightly ahead of the competition here today.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Our PC Xbox winner for the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge. What a race that was, what a finals that was, and what a performance that was from Knight. Let's go through our champions once more then. For the iOS, it was Future Flash who absolutely rocked his way to take the title on that one. Moving on to the Android, and it was Mayon who stood out on top to take the lead of the Android Championship, and then in the Windows Championship, Xbox Championship, it was Knight as well taking the top honours. A huge congratulations to everybody that took part today. You've all done yourselves very, very proud, and remember, it's all about those prizes as well. Exactly. A big round of applause from Marv and from myself as well. But €900 going to each of those winners in terms of a Lamborghini online store voucher. Let's close this out then, Marv. What are your final thoughts on what we've just seen today?
This was one of the most Demolition Derby-esque tournaments I've seen in a really long time, and I'm all here for it. Tons of wrecks, tons of risky maneuvers, lots of contact, and a lot of aggression as well. You love to see it, but overall, we had a lot of great races, a lot of these players showing why they are number one, why they deserve to be here, and yeah, great job to all the players.
A huge thank you to our commercial partners at Bridgestone and Gameloft, as always, for their support to make these championships happen. And of course to Lamborghini for having the vision to make this happen as well. A huge thank you to Marv for joining me here in the commentary booth. And a huge thank you to our broadcast team behind the scenes of Mike Yao and the rest of the team as well, bringing you all the awesome pictures and sound as well. To you at home in chat for watching us and keeping us company as well. I've been David Christie here in the commentary booth. You've been watching the Lamborghini Revuelto Esports Challenge. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again very, very soon.